channel where the dough don't rise. Broken bakers here with the sarcastic eyes. From Danish pastries to courtroom crime, where the spelling's a mess, but the humor's prime. Proceed defendants taking the stand, with wine moms laughing, glass in hand. Mods like Marissa and Valhalla too. Irish and whiskey keep the chat in view. It's trial tribulations with a sprinkle of wit. Chats popping off, yeah, they never quit. Jamie's got the deals and the beauty hacks. Dollar store glam keeping us on track. So come for the crime, stay for the snark. Broken bakers baking up a legal spark. Mo hops in with spicy takes. Jemima's got the docks, Farrell brings the shakes. Brandon keeps it wild, Iron Rabbit keeps it chill. Together they're the dream team, streaming the thrill. With courtroom chaos and dry witty flair, we're roasting defendants, cause life's not fair. Grab your wine, your snacks, and settle in. Chat's the real star, let the fun begin. It's trials, tribulations with a sprinkle of wit. Chats popping off, yeah, they never quit. Jamie's got the deals and the beauty hacks. Dollar store glam keeping us on track. So come for the crime, stay for the snark. Broken bakers baking up a legal spark. Broken Baker streaming, so don't you miss, where courtrooms and sarcasm meet Danish bliss. Mods and chat, we're keeping it clever. True crime and dry humor now and forever.
The llama cracks me up every time. Well, good morning, everybody. I am stepping in for Baker while he finishes up court. He's at a very boring one, apparently, so maybe we can see which one is more boring. But welcome in, everybody. I hope you got my notification. He did have court. I'm taking over. It says afternoon court. Oh, well, maybe I did the wrong one. Whatever. Good morning, good morning. I will have to change the thing. Because I messed up, okay? It does. It does. It's my bad. I'll have them change it. But good morning, everyone. I am waiting for court to start. Fun stuff. Hopefully, where are we? Maybe did I put the wrong one? I did. Let me change that real quick. Give me a second, bear with me. I always manage to screw something up, right? I know, I did. I'm going to just notify Discord. All right, there we go. Now we should be better. Yeah, now I have to figure out how to change the title, you know, all kinds of fun stuff. This is what happens when they leave me alone to take over things. But good morning, good morning. I know, I screwed up. It happens. Well, welcome everybody over here. Hopefully you all got my notification. Well, I put it in that chat too. Oops. Well, what did I miss yesterday afternoon? Did anybody watch on Recovery Addict? Was it all just the same boring? Hopefully it gets better today. I'm sure it will. Just warning that chat over there. Boring, but yeah. Yep, that's what I kind of figured. Here we go. Now I can change it. Hopefully this works. Hello, Kim. Hello. Welcome in. If you're, well, guess if people can remind everybody on the other one, I put the link in. It happens. Nah. And what else is going on? Boring bunch of nothing. Yeah. They appear to be a little late today, too. Always fun. Although I guess they're a minute early. Thank you. This is what happens when they put me in charge. There's always something that goes wrong. Yeah, they are. I don't know why this style is all weird today. All my settings are crazy. Oh well. Good morning, Jedi Jess. Good morning. I am still working on my first cup of coffee. Could be the problem. Thank you. I don't have it all together today, but we'll get through. I think the cat might join us at some point. I don't know if you can see him. There he is. He's snoozing. Hopefully he stays in his bed and not in my lap. I thought if I gave him a comfy spot, he would, near me, he would leave me alone. Good morning, Helen. Yeah, I mean, it happens. Oh, gosh. I wish I had the control to get rid of Nightbot. That would be great. Yes. It's like Little Red Riding Hood over here. Does that make me the wolf? And Baker the granny? Because that's kind of funny. Yep. Those drugs are really good. Oh, thank you. It's the result of trying to get a 5-year-old out the door and then getting everything set up here. I am going to refresh this because, we have the state seal. I'm going to put that up just so I don't miss it if it goes. I'll get this one day. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, what did he say? He's in court for some boring crime. So he'll probably be happy to come to this one. Thank you. Ugh. It is a very elaborate seal. Like, it looks like, oh, you can't see my mouse. It looks like they have like is that a ladder on the top left? There's a boat, a tree. Yeah, agriculture is apparently their thing. 1796. Ah, a plow. You're right. I'm sure Baker's already gone through this and I missed it. I kind of missed the fan. Oh, that's a fish? Yeah, I have the controls. I'm not doing well with the controls, but, you know, we're getting there. We're getting there. I got a banner up. I thought that was pretty good. I do have to put on the, watch this. I can even, ooh, look at that. I think, yeah, I mean, the fan was a little bit triggering in a way. Hopefully we'll have a different courtroom this time and not the teeny tiny one, but probably not. We'll probably be stuck in the little one again. But at least it won't be like the dead of summer, I think. Unless they push it back. It does kind of look like a mushroom cloud. Is it a tree? Is it a mushroom cloud? I really don't know. But we may never know unless we Google it, and I just don't have that kind of energy right now. Cotton. You know, I could honestly say I don't think I know what a cotton plant looks like. Auntie Bev is not going to a bigger courtroom. She's already expanding the buffer zone. Was it? Now, is that because somebody complained about it? I don't know that whole story. I'm sure there's a story there. Is it because, like, they could still hear them? They'll just get louder. I don't, like, what's the point? Looks like horseradish. I don't know what that looks like either. I mean, doesn't that grow kind of like a carrot in the ground? I don't think that I've ever grown horseradish. And like, what's under this boat thing? I don't know. Good morning, Irish. Oh, I see movement. Oh, it would help if I unmuted. Why can't I unmute? There we go. So horseradish is something you grow. Yeah, it's a. I'm pretty sure it's a like carrot-like thing, or like a parsnip or something. It grows in the ground, and you pull it out, and then it's like this. Because I've definitely seen them like in whole form before, and you like grate them up. Someone needs to turn on the lights. Yeah. Well, oh yeah, I guess it is kind of dark in there, huh, with the shadow. Another attorney has asked for a buffer zone to be pushed back because his client's trial. Oh, right. Yeah. She would totally ask, like, grant that one just because it ticks people off. On the seal, plow, wheat, cotton, riverboat, Roman numerals. Oh, the cotton is next to the mushroom cloud. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I have the sound booster, but beyond that, I'm at a loss. Horseradish traumatized you as a little kid. She had to clean it up at a church luncheon. Oh, it does burn your nose. It does. I kind of like it. I don't think I liked it as a kid as much, but I think it's one of those acquired tastes. Much like wasabi. Isn't wasabi the fake stuff in the US is basically just horseradish that they dye green, or so I'm told. I don't know who the next witness is. Somebody else might. Who was the guy that was on the stand after the cop yesterday? Was that another cop? Do we have a lot of cops in this one? None of them were bald, so they're probably better than Canton cops, but it's not really saying much. The plow, the sheaf of wheat, and a cotton stalk symbolize the importance of agriculture, while the riverboat attests to the importance of river traffic to commerce. Oh, we got a door opening. Ah, I figured it was another detective. He had a detective.
Report is now in session. Judge Boyd Patterson presiding. May be seated. Morning, Honor.
Can everybody hear?
Are continuing to evolve. I've been on the phone all morning with a federal case, regarding a federal case. The one that you figure out where Mr. Strickland was. Chad Wilson's been working on that federal.
Oh, they killed sound on us. Oh, there it is.
I think they're bringing on now. Okay. Chad Wilson. Oh, wait a minute, pertaining to counsel prisoners.
They killed sound again. All right. Well then. Oh, so there was a cop that found the suitcase. Oh, and there was a neighbor. Okay. Yeah, it looked like they did add a mic there. I could actually hear him, but could you guys actually hear the judge when he was talking? Hello, hello. Welcome in. Sidebar. Ugh, now we get to look at a door. We didn't start early. We started 10 minutes early-ish. And I still screwed it up. Okay, I'm getting yes on audio. Great. I need to get some coffee in me. Oh. Look at this. I wonder if this guy knows he's the star of the show right now. Oh, oh well. Oh, I have to be the interpreter? That's going to be a problem. Good morning. The defendant should be coming in. Wouldn't he already be there? Usually they have them there already, but whatever. Yeah, he was probably talking to somebody behind us. Oh, Well, it's okay. We don't smell you. You don't need a shower. Thankfully, this is just, 2D and we don't have smell-o-vision. They should have him shackled from his wrists to his ankles. Or is that not right? I guess he does have the right to not be. Oop. Camera guy is all over the place today. Y'all, I was in my pajamas like 25 minutes ago, so I hear you. Did the, looking to see if the thing updated in YouTube, because I changed the title. Maybe Baker won't notice. He'll notice. What are they chatting about? Did you see that guy at the Waffle House? I did not. What did he do? He came in and his fly was down. This guy's really... Judge is smiling. I don't really like this attorney all the way at the right. His beard kind of is... It's too... Looks like there's a bird living in it. It's too messy. But I do like the prosecutor. I know everybody's a little on the fence about her, but I think she's pretty good. Oh, God. What are we... I'm going to get dizzy. This guy doesn't want to be on camera. Oh. This bailiff is the guy hacking?
Here today, it may go into
Oh.
tomorrow. There will be some photos, perhaps, of the victim, whether it's autopsy or coming out from where she was found. The court again recognizes the importance of being in court. One of the things that makes us different than non-democratic societies. I'm glad that you're here. You need to abide by the court's rulings when needed. There's one today. You cannot put live stream on the camera that's going elsewhere any of the graphic photos of the victim. Okay? Family has a right to have this proceeding done with as much dignity as possible, and the court feels that that is something that's a reasonable request. You can focus in on the witness's face only. If you can't do that, you can do audio, but you need to make every effort to ensure that no graphic photos of the victim are broadcast. Everybody understand? Understand?
Yes, we had already decided we were not going to cover those.
Okay, thank you very much. The family appreciate that too. And I appreciate Juror Moyle coming up with that workaround. Mr. Chin is in the courtroom. Any matters to discuss before we resume the jury trial? Either side.
All right. So we're not getting graphic photos. Now, did she say that they weren't going to show them anyway? Because I don't know how I feel about that. Sometimes I feel like those photos are very important to the shock value. Really kind of nails it home. Custody. Who's that? Why are we looking at her? Is that one of his attorneys? Yeah, I mean, part of me like kind of likes them, but I don't really want to see them while I'm on camera because I might throw up.
Good morning, jurors. Anybody work out yesterday? Nobody? Okay. You exhausted?
She did.
When you're exhausted, it's a great time to work out. Hope everyone slept well. First thing I have to ask, is everyone able to abide by the court's admonition not to discuss the case, not be exposed in the media, records, everyone on their head, records, what everyone's not on their head. Before we presume there's one matter we need to bring up with you. Yesterday we heard testimony from one of the witnesses about the defendant, about the asparagus, taking produce from one of the stores, and while he typed, backwards, he said he was purchasing asparagus, but he did not purchase any asparagus. That's technically a crime, shoplifting. It's only admitted because it was relevant to this case. In fact, the parties agreed that he was buying cleaning supplies at that time. And keying in asparagus instead of some of the things that he was actually purchasing is the reason that it was admitted. It's really important. One of the aspects of a fair jury trial is that other crimes don't get admitted unless it's relevant some way. And the legal term for that is propensity. Just because a person commits one crime does not mean that they have a greater propensity to commit the crime they're on trial for. So say that to say this, the only thing that you can consider the defendant's purchases from Walgreens and Walmart for in the fact that one item was keyed in when that was not actually taken is for the non-propensity reason that goes to him buying cleaning supplies to clean up after his act. Okay. Parties wish to address this matter further?
Okay, so this is a good question. So I think what he did was he put in the key code for asparagus, or maybe he didn't put in the key code for asparagus. Did anybody catch that? Basically, he shoplifted, but I'm not sure. Oh, he never bought asparagus, so he probably put in the code for asparagus, but bought like bleach or something instead. So yeah, he also stole. It was probably an expensive cleaner, so probably not bleach. I thought maybe he was just hungry. Yeah. All right, moving on. Right. He was being cheap, which is, I mean, of all times to be cheap, I guess. Like, if you're going to commit a crime, you might as well do it when covering up a Redrum. He stole wine, paid for asparagus, but got something else. Oh. Yeah, I think, do we have asparagus on the bingo list? I don't know if they'd actually say that in the closing, but maybe.
Michelle Johnson.
That could be it.
Yes.
Good morning, ma'am. Would you please state your name and spell your last for the record?
Michelle Johnson, JOHNSON.
What's your profession? What do you do?
I'm a crime scene investigator with the Chattanooga Police Department.
How long have you worked as a crime scene investigator for the Chattanooga Police Department?
Approximately 7.5 years.
Did you have any experience in law enforcement prior to becoming a crime scene investigator?
I also worked 16 years in corrections.
Have you received any kind of specialized training that
I think the only crime happening here is that she didn't use her under eye cream last night. Poor soul.
assists you in the performance of your duties as crime scene investigator?
Yes, I have.
What is that?
Crime scene investigator, we go through 6 months of on-the-job training with a senior crime scene investigator. Hundreds of hours of specialized training, including 400 hours for attending and graduating from the National Forensic Academy. It's a 10-week intense training for crime scene investigators.
Day to day, what does a crime scene investigator do for the police department?
We respond to normally major case crimes and process the scenes.
I'd like to take you back, if I could, to November the 22nd of 2022. Do you recall the events that took place on that day?
Yes,
Were you working as a crime scene investigator on the 27th of November?
yes,
On that day, did you have an opportunity to assist
Me
with
too.
the, collection of evidence?
correct.
Do you recall what location you first went to on the 27th?
I was notified around 10 p.m. by Detective Crawford, and he requested that I respond to 5977 Old Dayton Pike.
And do you know the significance of that location?
He had informed me that he was working a missing person case, and he asked me to respond to this location where the missing person, or Jasmine Pace's mother was, and collect items of evidence that had been taken from Jason Chen's apartment.
Do you recall specifically what items you collected?
I collected electronic devices. I believe there's some clothing, some notebooks, Jasmine Pace's ID, along with several credit cards belonging to her.
Ma'am, I'm showing you what's been admitted into evidence as Exhibit 12. Are you familiar with this photograph?
Yes, that's the photograph I took. That's the in the manner in which I received the items.
And when you say the items, are those the items that you just described to the jury, the clothing, the notebooks, the electronic devices?
Yes, sir.
I'm now showing you what is been admitted into evidence as Exhibit 11. Can you describe what we're seeing in this photograph?
Yes, there's 4 cell phones, a Polaroid camera, and a tablet or laptop.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is that the right pronoun for this woman? Ma'am? Just saying.
Ma'am, I'm handing you what's been marked for identification purposes as Exhibit number 139. Could you take a moment to familiarize yourself with this?
Okay.
Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, it's the identification for Jasmine Pace and her cards.
Did you take that photograph?
Yes,
Was it taken at the Pace residence or another location?
it's hard to tell. I may have taken it when I got back to the office just to take more detailed photographs.
Is it common practice to collect evidence at a location and then further photograph it once you take it back to the police department?
Correct, yes.
Specifically, ma'am, why would you want to do that?
It's just a more controlled environment, and we can lay things out and have better lighting also.
Does that photograph fairly and accurately depict the IDs that you collected from the Jasmine's residence?
Yes,
I'm showing you what's been admitted into evidence as Exhibit 10. You see the items in the lower left-hand corner of Exhibit 10?
yes,
Are those the same documents and IDs that we see in Exhibit 139?
yes, that's correct.
Here are at this time, I will move to admit into evidence Exhibit 139, the photographs of IDs and credit cards.
Is that better?
Which I published to the jury. Yes, sir. Thank you. Ma'am, I'm now going to show you.
What's that purple thing?
Can I have the document?
Yes.
Is that a Polaroid camera? Looks like my grandfather's old Polaroid. Doxed.
And did you have an opportunity to compare the names on the various credit cards and the driver's license?
Yes,
Are they all for the same person, Ms. Jasmine Pace?
yes, I believe they were.
And specifically, what is Truist and SunTrust?
Those are banking institutions.
Same with Capital One?
I believe they have banking and credit card services.
Thank you, ma'am. Back to DVD card. In addition to the items that you collected from Ms. Katrina Pace in the box that we saw previously, did you do anything else?
I also documented with digital photography the residence where Jasmine Pace was residing.
Specifically, could you describe the location that Ms. Jasmine Pace was residing?
It was just below her mother's house. It was I guess a pool house. Just an open room and a bathroom.
Ma'am, I'm showing you what has been admitted into evidence as Exhibit 17 to this trial. Did you take this photograph?
Yes,
And what does it depict?
it was the shower inside the bathroom.
That's tiny.
Ma'am, is that location located inside what we see here in Exhibit 14?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, she was staying in the pool house.
After you collected
Right.
these items, the photograph, the items shown in the photographs, including the electronic devices, Jasmine Pace's credit cards, her driver's license, what did you do with those items?
I secured them inside my crime scene vehicle.
And after you secure them in your crime scene vehicle, what do you do with them then? What's the next step?
Normally, if I go back to the crime scene office, I would package and seal them and secure them possibly in the evidence vault and eventually turn them into our property and evidence division.
You mentioned the evidence vault. Is that different than the property and evidence division?
Correct. It's a secure vault we have inside the crime scene office where we keep evidence that we are still packaging or processing.
How do you prepare a document for submission to a particular, to the prosecutor?
First thing we do is an evidence report for all the items we collect. Then we have to complete a property sheet. We also have to complete labels to identify the evidence inside the bags, and we place those labels on the outside of the bags.
What type of bags do you use?
Brown paper bags or cardboard boxes sometimes.
Why would you use one over the other?
Just for size. If something's really large, we may have to use a box.
And who does all of the packaging, the preparation of the property report, so on and so forth?
The investigator who normally collects the evidence, I would have packaged this stuff.
Specifically in this case, those items you collected from Ms. Katrina Pace at her residence on Old Dayton Pike, did you go through that process?
Yes.
Now, ma'am, the items that you collected from the Pace residence, are they assigned a number before they're submitted to the property room?
Correct. Once they're added to our evidence report, they are assigned a number.
Specifically, the items that you collected, the notebooks, for the record, I'm now showing Exhibit 10. The credit cards, the keys, the clothing. what numbers did you assign for this collection of evidence?
Without looking at the evidence report, I believe they started at 74. I'm not sure.
So if you look at this, can you see this, I think that's an old Polaroid, but what is this? This purple thing. Looks like it's like it opened or something. Anyway.
Why would you start at 74? Was this the first place that you went?
It was the first place I went.
So if it's the first place you went, why did you start with 74?
When we respond to a crime scene, we have a primary crime scene and then we have secondary locations. The primary crime scene is going to take precedence over a secondary location, which in this case, going to Jasmine Pace's residence was a secondary location. And once we go to a primary location, we use evidence markers, which are numbered markers, placards, yellow placards. And we begin marking our evidence with number 1. And so when we use evidence markers on the primary scene, that number has to
Does anybody care what number they use? I don't care. Is this relevant? God, what a waste of time.
correspond with our evidence report and with the item number on the property sheet. So in other words, the items we mark with evidence markers will be listed first.
Okay. So the bottom line is, if you started at 74, that would be indicative of going to another location.
Right.
Did you in fact go to another location?
Yes, I did.
What other location did you go to?
Detective Crawford requested that I respond to 110 Tremont Street, apartment 210.
When did you go to that location at Crawford's request?
I arrived there right around midnight.
What time did you arrive at the Dayton Pike location?
Not for certain. I think it was probably around 10:30.
During the, between the time that you arrived at 10:30 and then when you got to Tremont Street very late in the evening, what were you doing? What were your activities?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What were you doing in between when you arrived at Dayton Pike and when you eventually arrived at Tremont Street?
I was taking photos of Dayton Pike and collecting those items that Detective Crawford had requested I collect.
Thank you. When you arrive at a crime scene such as 110 Tremont Street to conduct a search, is that typically incident to a search warrant?
Correct.
When you arrived at 110 Tremont Street, was there already a search warrant there?
I believe Detective Crawford had notified me via phone that he had signed the search warrant. I'm not sure if it was physically there yet or not.
So after the warrant is obtained, is that when the search begins?
Yes.
Specifically, ma'am, do you recall the location that you searched at 110 Tremont Street?
As far as the apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, apartment 210.
Could you describe to the jury what apartment 210 looked like?
It was a small apartment, kind of a shotgun style, where pretty much one way in, one way out. Entering into the living room area. Then there was a kitchen, a laundry area, and then a bathroom, and then the bedroom.
Now, would you walk the jury through the process that you as a crime scene investigator go through to search a location such as the one that you just described?
The first thing we would do is an initial walkthrough. And during the initial walkthrough, we'll look for any evidence in plain sight. During this time, we don't disturb anything. And we also formulate a plan of action as far as processing the scene, and just get an idea of the layout of the crime scene that we will be processing.
Would you describe the initial walkthrough as an actual search for evidence?
Anytime we walk through a crime scene, we are continuously searching. But during the initial walkthrough, we don't move anything or search inside of anything. We don't disturb anything during the initial walkthrough, but we do search.
As you begin to process the scene, do crime scene investigators produce any kind of documentation that helps them remember where items are collected?
Yes, we take written notes, and we also do a scene sketch marking the location of where items are recovered from.
What was your specific role at 110 Tremont Street?
My role was to document the scene with digital photographs and collect the items of evidence.
Who was the lead crime scene investigator at that location?
I was.
Now, I'm going to be showing you what's been marked for identification purposes as Exhibit 140. Are you familiar with this document?
Yes.
What is Exhibit 140?
This is a diagram that investigator Sarah Brown created based on her sketches of the crime scene.
As the lead crime scene investigator, were you aware that she was producing that sketch?
Yes.
Have you had an opportunity to review that sketch?
Yes.
Is it to scale?
No.
Okay. Does it fairly show the general location and proximity to various other items that were collected from 110 Tremont Street?
Yes.
Does it assist you as a crime scene investigator in explaining where in the apartment things were located? Joe?
That's correct.
Your Honor, I would move to make this exhibit.
Exhibit 140.
What an enthusiastic lady. That's all I have to say. She is, whew, riveting stuff here.
Published the jury.
Miserable sod.
Can you see the television? Barely?
Yes.
Okay. I know it's not the clearest. You know how to use cell phones, et cetera? You can pinch
Okay.
and make bigger, okay?
Pinch to make it bigger.
Clearly.
Not the lesson I would learn.
Yes.
Could you please orient the jury what we're looking at specifically in Exhibit 140 that they can see on the television?
Okay, at the bottom of the page is the entrance to the apartment.
And how do you denote that on the sketch?
Well, there's a door opening right here.
Okay, when you say right here, what does it look like? Is it
Kind of like a triangle shape along the bottom.
okay? Would you agree, ma'am, that it's the
Does it say?
vertical line with the arc?
Yes.
heading
Oh, not
towards
to
the left
scale.
of the screen?
Yes.
And that leads into the living room.
Correct.
Moving now back towards the top portion of Exhibit 141, where are we getting into now?
Once you go through the living room, there's a peninsula for the kitchen that contains the kitchen sink. And then to the right, there's a washer and dryer closet.
Okay, and behind that, or I guess further into the apartment?
That's when you enter into the bathroom. To the right is the shower, and to the left was the toilet and the sink.
And finally, towards the very top.
That is the bedroom.
Wait, do you have to back up a little bit? Do you have to go from the kitchen, which is here, right? Do you have to go through the bathroom to get to the bedroom? Or is there a hallway? Like, this is a weird apartment.
Sink.
Did you document your initial walkthrough of the residence that we see in the crime scene sketch on the screen?
Yes.
Ma'am, I'm showing you what's been admitted into evidence as Exhibit 9. Who took this photograph?
I did.
And what does it generally depict?
It just shows the entrance of the apartment.
During your initial walkthrough, specifically immediately after this photograph is taken, did you have an opportunity to examine the door frame?
Yes, that's one thing we routinely do is check to see if there's any signs of forced entry.
I'm showing the jury Exhibit 36, ma'am. What types of things would you look for signs of forced entry on the door frame?
We would look for scratches or damage to the framing of the door.
Would you agree, ma'am, that there's some scratching on this door frame?
Yes.
Did you find signs of forced entry on this door?
Yes, and it's also hard to determine when those would have occurred.
Sure. Were there large dents or gouges into the door frame?
No, not that I recall.
Going to the actual locking mechanism of the door, Exhibit 37, did you see signs of damage to the door indicative of forced entry?
No.
Is there a method or a process that you as a crime scene investigator go through to document and process a scene?
Yes.
How do you do that?
As far as documenting with digital photographs, we'll take overall photographs of the scene. And then we'll take closer up photographs of the scene, and if items of evidence are discovered, then we'll take close up photographs.
Do you work your way through the residence in any particular manner?
Normally we have a pattern that we'll follow. Different investigators use different patterns. In this case, it being such a small area, there was pretty much just one way to navigate through the apartment.
Okay. Do you recall what pattern or method you used to walk through the apartment?
Just started at the entrance, and like I said, it was pretty much like a shotgun apartment, and walked to the back. And from there, we were able to see, all areas of the apartment.
Because she's a boring bore who bores. It's brutal.
What items were you looking for? What kind of evidence were you looking to collect?
At the time, it was a missing person case. We were looking for any items of evidence that really didn't belong in the apartment, anything out of place, or anything that could have indicated that there could have been a crime committed there.
The lights are off for
During
the
your
video.
initial walkthrough, did anything catch your eye?
The first thing I noticed was the coffee table. It seemed a little out of alignment with the couch.
I'm showing Exhibit 38. Could you please explain that to the jury?
Yes, I think normally people have the coffee table pretty much centered with the couch, parallel, and it was just off angle.
What else?
Walking, then we walked behind the couch, and I observed what I believe to be suspected blood on the floor.
Ma'am, I'm showing you exhibit 43.
The Trader
Is
Joe's
this the
bag.
location that you're describing behind the couch?
Yes.
Okay.
There.
I'm also now showing you exhibit 80. Do you see any of the suspected blood in this photograph?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, could you point it out? Here's a place
Where?
right there for you.
There's some up in this area right here.
Okay. I'm now showing you exhibit 81 and now exhibit 82.
I don't see blood.
Yes, this area right here.
What surfaces was the
That's
blood
bl-
on that you observed?
It was on the floor. It was also on some of the walls. The bathroom tile, bathroom light switch. Where there's at least 2 areas in the bedroom. The suspected one.
Ma'am, I'm now showing you exhibit 59. Can you point out the suspected blood in this photograph?
Right here in this brown
Ew.
line, as well as in this carpet area right here.
Underpants.
Now I'm now showing you what's been admitted into evidence as exhibit 67. Do you see any suspected blood in this photograph?
It was this area right here that caught my attention.
Exhibit 68, was that a close-up of the preceding photograph?
Yes,
Thank you, ma'am. And in what rooms was the suspected blood located?
living room, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, all the rooms.
Every room?
Yes.
Coughing.
No. Agreed.
Oof. They only have a mic when they cough. Incredible. Ooh, evidence. It's that guy. There's going to be underwear in all of these bags. I'm calling it now. It's just going to be dirty undies. Nah, it's probably not underwear. Maybe it's, ouch. Pieces of carpet.
Pre-marked right there. Item 141. You recognize this?
There are 2 coffers.
Yes, it's a carpet sample
Carpet sample.
that was cut from the bedroom floor.
Thank you, ma'am. Did you collect that item?
Yes,
Where did you collect it from?
Jason Shin's bedroom.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, I would move to admit into evidence item 141. I'd like to take, can I have the document projector, Your Honor? Yes, sir. Now, ma'am,
Congrats.
now placing on the document projector what's been admitted into evidence as Exhibit 141. You described earlier a paper bag, and we can all see the paper bag. What's the significance of the red item that's stapled to the top of this red bag?
As a property tag, property and evidence department would apply that to the bag.
Okay. What is the significance of item number that we see here?
It just corresponds with the item number that's on the bag.
And does that correspond with the item number as it's introduced into property?
Yes,
Okay. When we see a description here, what's that?
it's just a brief description of what is in the bag.
So you know
What's
what's
this
inside the
description?
paper bag?
Yes.
Now we see some white tape. What does that tell the jury?
The package was sealed.
Does it mean that it potentially was opened at some point for examination?
It could have been, but they would have had to cut the seal and then reseal it.
And we see a kind of a scribble there with a Sharpie towards the center. What's that?
That's my initials.
Does that mean that, what does that mean? Placing your initials on the seal and the bag itself
That means that I sealed that bag.
after it was opened at some point?
Yes.
What's the significance of the white label?
That is a crime scene investigator evidence label. We apply it to all items of evidence to give a brief description of what the item is, where the item was collected, and when it was collected.
Who prepares that white label?
The crime scene investigator would.
So in this case, it says investigator M. Johnson. That means you prepared this label.
More than likely. Sometimes when we get back to the office, other people will assist in typing up your labels.
The location of recovery, okay? If the jury were to want to, there's a lot of evidence already in evidence in this case. If they were wanting to examine a particular item of evidence and place it within a particular location, can they learn anything by looking at the location recovery line?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. So the jury has received a lot of items of evidence, okay, which they'll be allowed to take back with them to review.
Okay.
If they were wanting to look for a particular item of evidence that was found in a particular location, could they do that by looking at the recovery location?
Yes.
Okay. And in this case, it says bathroom, bedroom, transition, southeast of shower. What does that mean?
That was the location given to it by me and on the evidence report. And then we will transfer that information to the evidence label.
Okay. And ma'am, you indicated that item inventory number 6 is on this label. It's also on the red card that was stapled to the other side. Could you show the jury where on the crime scene sketch that would be located?
Yes, it's right there in the doorway between the bathroom and the bedroom.
Okay, now going into our television here, where would that be?
At the upper part right there, will this laser reach up there?
It doesn't really reflect. It
No.
reflects still. Would it be right there where it says number 6?
Correct.
Okay. So for all the items of, that were collected from Jason Chin's apartment, if they wanted to find something from a particular spot, they could start by looking at the crime scene diagram,
Correct.
identifying the item number,
Yes.
and then comparing that number 6 with the number 6 that we see right there.
Correct.
Thank you.
I feel like the jury probably could have figured that out on their own. Just
I'm
saying.
handing you, it's been marked for identification as item 142.
More carpet?
You recognize this item?
Yes.
What is that item? Ma'am?
is a carpet sample with suspected blood, taken from Jason Chin's bedroom.
And specifically, what item number is that?
Item number 9.
We have,
What do you think her hobbies are outside of ripping up carpet and finding blood? Like, do you think she does pole dancing or belly dancing? Maybe she does Zumba. I think she just watched water boil. She probably just makes eggs every day. That's what she eats. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think all of these things are still too exciting for her. Dreaming about being Dexter. I don't know. Glass blowing. Collecting butterflies. I think she collects something like even weirder, like I don't know, like centipedes or something. Diamond painting. I mean, she's a thrill. Obviously, her hobbies do not include fashion and beauty, but neither here nor there.
so using the crime scene sketch, where is item 9?
It'll be above and to the right of number 6.
So above to the right?
Yes.
Okay, so right here next to the rectangle.
Right.
Draw your attention now to exhibit 68. Is there any correlation between inventory item 9, what's been marked for identification 142, and the bloody spot that you identified
Probably never.
in exhibit 68?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Is there any correlation between this physical item and what we see on the screen in
Yes.
exhibit 68?
It's that area right there where the suspected blood was.
Did you remove that area of carpet?
Yes, it was cut out.
Is what you've identified as 142 the area of carpet that you removed from that location in exhibit 68?
Yes.
Do I move to admit item 142 in evidence?
So then,
I mean, he did a fairly decent
I'm
job
handing you now.
cleaning up the blood. Didn't look like blood.
It's been marked for identification as item 143. You recognize that?
Yes,
What is item 143 now?
it's a blue and red plaid shirt,
Where was
button
that?
down,
Where was that item recovered from?
bedroom closet.
What? Bear paws?
All right, move to admit item 143.
Bedroom closet. She mumbles. How did blood get in the closet? Did he put her in there?
As part of your initial walkthrough, there's a ton of photographs taken. You take another set of photographs?
We also take photographs throughout the processing of the scene, and we also take photographs just prior to exiting the scene.
So there are multiple sets of photographs taken.
Yes.
When you say processing the scene, does that mean,
Searching.
okay, do you do anything else during the processing?
We'll test areas of suspected blood. We may use other processes like Blue Star to identify
Yes.
areas.
Show the
that are
Blue
not
Star
visible
again.
to the naked eye.
And I'm handing you what's going to be marked as exhibit 144, a collective exhibit, specifically pages 1 to 9. You take a moment and familiarize yourself with those.
I know. Like, these people have no personality. What are we looking at? More pictures of blood. Trash can, refrigerator.
Okay.
Ma'am, what do those photographs generally depict?
These are photographs of the apartment, once the evidence markers were laid out.
And specifically which room?
Living room. Kitchen area.
Y'all, I just noticed that she has a wedding ring on. Somebody married her. Somebody married her. Let that sink in.
So the front portion of the apartment.
Yes.
So we're now focusing on the area that's shown on the screen on the television right now.
Yes.
Are these photographs that you took when you conducted the search warrant?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move to commit into evidence exhibit 144, collected 1 to 9.
So admitted.
Thank you. Now published to the jury.
Yes, sir.
Let's start with item 1 then. Oops, sorry. On the crime scene diagram, here we go. Item 1 is indicated with a circle and an arrow. What does that mean?
That's the location it was located, and the arrow probably indicates it was under the couch.
Okay. Can we see exhibit 1 in this photograph?
Yes.
I'm now showing second page of the collected exhibit. What are we looking at here now?
It says item number 1, scrub brush.
And why would that be important for a potential item of evidence that you would deem worthy of marking with an evidence marker?
After seeing the suspected blood throughout the apartment, it was probably believed that there was a strong possibility that there was some cleaning up done, based on the amount of cleaning materials and other items that were there.
Now showing you third page of the collected exhibit. What are we looking at in this photograph?
This is suspected blood right here, beside number 2.
I don't see it.
Zoom in so the jury can see that. Would you mind pointing it out to the jurors? And where is this adjacent to? Where is this in the crime scene?
You say so.
It's behind the couch.
That's not a couch. That's a futon. Don't glorify that couch.
You're now looking at a close-up of that second evidence marker.
Yes.
Fifth page, what are we looking at here?
It's an overall photograph from item 4 to item 6. With item 3 under the kitchen sink.
Okay, so under the kitchen sink is item number 3. What is item number 3?
There's a box of hefty trash bags, drawstring, I believe 33 gallon.
What's wrong with having trash bags?
Are those what we would describe as kitchen-sized garbage bags, ma'am?
Not really, no.
I'm surprised you got
It does not
hefty.
appear to be 33 gallons.
So it's smaller, so it's a mismatch.
Yes.
And I'm handing you what's been marked for identification purposes as exhibit 145. What is this?
A box of black trash bags.
White
Is that
trash
the box of white trash bags that we
bags.
see collected from item marker 3 on the screen?
Yes, the hefty trash bags, yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit into evidence exhibit 145.
So admitted.
Ma'am, what color were the pull tabs for these garbage bags?
Blue.
Blue bags.
Can you point that out to the jury?
That's a different one.
Yeah, that's the full tab right there. And it's also indicated on the outside of the box.
Thank you, Ben. I'm now showing you the 8th
Oh.
page of the collected exhibit. What is located in item?
Tide Pods have entered into this trial. It is officially not going to get any more boring than this, folks. Maybe she
That's another
eat them.
suspected blood stain.
Zooming in.
I don't see it.
exhibit, the 9th page of the collected exhibit. You point that out to the jury?
Yes, this area up here.
I mean,
Did you collect the actual floor like you did with the piece of carpet that was admitted into evidence as exhibit 143?
No.
You didn't pull up the floorboards?
oh,
How do you process a stain like that on a surface?
We would collect what we call a suspected blood swab.
How does one collect a suspected
oh.
blood swab?
Using sterile cotton swabs. We add distilled water to one of them. One is wet, one is dry. And we will swipe over the suspected area. And then we'll place that in a sterile cardboard box. And then we'll place that inside a brown paper bag.
Is that the process that you learned through your training?
Yes.
Is that the process that you used throughout your career as a crime scene investigator?
Yes.
I think I might need to tape my eyes open. We're trying to see blood on the floor. And she's talking about how she swabbed the floor and the exact process to do it. Maybe the cops in Canton should watch this trial.
And you was been marked for identification as number 146, specifically 1 to 8. Would you mind familiarizing yourself with those?
So the summary is this man, Jason Chen, had a girlfriend, Jasmine Pace, and he, for some reason, shackled her wrist to ankles, stabulated her about 60 times on her right side, put her in a suitcase, and dumped her body on Suck Creek Road. And then went to Walmart, didn't buy asparagus. He stole cleaning supplies and called it asparagus. Stole a bottle of wine, I think, but bought a bunch of cleaning supplies at Walmart and Walgreens. Went back to his apartment and cleaned it all up. But he left like her purse, her ID, and a whole bunch of other stuff at his apartment. But yeah, and now we're just going through all this lovely, boring stuff. Hello.
Hello.
This is pretty agonizing.
Well, I went to court 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and sat through I don't know how many hours of bank extract.
Gosh.
I
So-
hope that something happens today.
So blood is kind of an upgrade?
Yeah, at least something happens.
Well, yeah. This lady needs Jamie's beauty on a budget, I'll tell you that. She's got some bags under her eyes that they're
She
like
needs,
about as full as Valhalla's goats.
She needs Ricada's late night streaming special.
Something. I don't know.
She sounds like she's about to fall asleep when she answers a question.
Yeah, she's not keeping the jury awake.
Hello, everyone.
All right, let's get back to it.
Yeah. Papa at 1.25. Oh, she's just going through pictures. Two. Oh no, she's ready now.
Okay.
What do they show, ma'am?
These are photos I took, overall photos of items of evidence in the bathroom.
So using crime scene diagram, we'll be talking about this general area here.
Correct.
Do they fairly and accurately depict what you observed with your own eyes when you conducted the search warrant?
Yes.
All right, moved to admit into evidence, collected exhibit 146. Okay, thank you.
So bright when they first put them up.
Describe to the jury what we're looking at.
Again, it's overall photo of items marked for evidence in the bathroom. Item 5, I believe was a blood swab. 6 was a cutout of the carpet with blood. 7 was some boxer briefs, underwear.
Everybody look out for evidence
Specifically,
bag
item
number
5,
7.
Did you collect a sample of the reddish substance that we see immediately to the right and below exhibit 5?
Correct.
Using the process with that sterile swab that you described earlier?
Yes.
Now, what about item 6 that we see in the third page of the collected exhibit? How did you process that particular item of evidence?
Actually cut out the section of carpet and look underneath and make sure that the blood had saturated through the carpet and the padding and to the subfloor.
And so the record is clear, the process that you just described resulted in item 6, which is exhibit 141 to the trial.
Yes.
He described that there was a substance that went through from one side to the other. I'm now showing you page 4 of the collected exhibit. Did you point that out to the jury?
Yes, right here.
Now I see it.
Thank you, ma'am. Did you collect the clothing article that we see in exhibit 7, item 7 on page 5 of the collected exhibit?
Yes.
Okay. So you collected those.
We don't need to see them.
What's the significance of number 8, ma'am? It appears to be in the shower.
Yes, that's the shower drain. It had visible hair and we collected it for possible forensic evidence.
I'm now showing you the 8th page of that collected exhibit. It's close up. So you collected that hair?
Yes, and the drain.
Oh, so you took the actual metallic frame that we see, the circular object in the middle.
Yes, the drain covered, yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ugh.
After you processed the bathroom, where did you go next?
To the bedroom.
As one would.
Is it hair on the?
Yes,
And
it's
the mark
disgusting.
identification as 174, specifically pages 1 to 6.
Ugh.
Would you mind familiarizing yourself with that?
Yeah, I saw it, but I didn't want to do a baby case.
Okay.
What did they show?
Overall photographs of items marked for evidence in the bedroom.
Did they fairly and accurately show what you collected at the crime scene
Yes.
from the bedroom?
Yes.
All right, let's admit into evidence 147.
147.
Let's go ahead and consider. Yes, sir. Thank you, Ron. All right, so we have here exhibit 9, or evidence marker 9, evidence marker 10. Evidence marker 9 is that carpet piece that we have here as exhibit 142 to the trial.
Yes.
What is item 10?
It's a button with a small piece of material attached to it.
Now, showing you the second page of the collective exhibit, and I'm going to skip ahead to the third page. I'm sorry,
Ew.
the fourth page of the collective exhibit. What was about that? Why did you mark that as a possible item of evidence, and did you in fact collect that?
Yes, I did collect it. It was definitely out of place. The button possibly could have been torn from the shirt, since the material was still attached to it.
To your knowledge, did you ever find an article of clothing that was connected to that button?
No.
Now showing you the fifth page of the collective exhibit, what are we looking at here?
Item number 11 was a knife that was on the bed.
That's where I keep my knives.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Sidebar. Blah, 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 blah. You guys are boring. But, Your Honor, they're showing a stabulator on the bed. This is terrible for us. Oh, that looks even worse when you have it at 0.75, his leg bouncing. Oh, this is long. What did I say?
Don't listen to Valhalla. He's just got envy.
Ooh.
The penny has been marked for identification purposes as item 140. You recognize this item?
Yes.
What is that item?
It's a gray knife, cut off from the bed.
Okay. That we can see there towards the center of the photograph on the screen, page 5.
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit into evidence the knife shown in exhibit, I'm sorry, next to evidence marker 11 and collected.
It's a pretty decent sized knife.
148.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, I can see how he got the cut wound. I hate those knives because either you put your finger in that little curvature in front of the, and it'll hurt you when you have to work with it for a long time, or it'll slip in your hand.
Yeah. I meant the dumb lawyers on the TV that can't be entertaining.
What wall is that bed
Oh.
up against?
So it's the north wall.
Didn't mean to pull that
What
up.
you would describe as the north wall.
Yes, north wall of the bedroom.
Zooming out
Oh, look.
the crime scene sketch, there's an N with an arrow pointing down.
He's got some
See
lotion.
Correct.
What's the significance of the N with the arrow?
Showing the direction of north.
So, I'm sorry, I can't scroll from television. So going to the bedroom, the north wall would be where on the crime scene sketch?
It would be the lower wall of the bedroom.
The wall separating the bedroom from the bathroom?
Correct.
Don't forget, pinch to enlarge.
Now, when you conducted your initial
Pins to zoom.
and your search,
No, he said enlarge.
did you know prior to your
Earlier.
search the normal orientation
Life advice.
of the furniture in this bedroom?
No.
I'm now showing you what's been admitted into evidence as as exhibit 73. Do you see the green tapestry on the wall?
Yes.
Do you see the marking markings on the wall to the lower left of the tapestry?
By the lotion.
And do you see the bed that we saw in the blood exhibit just a moment ago, where item 11 was?
Yes,
Orient the jury to that.
as far as the headboard is up here on this wall.
Okay. So if where that wall is the north wall, what wall would you call the one with the tapestry on it?
The east wall.
The east wall. What is adjacent to the bed along the corner where the east wall intersects the north wall?
The nightstand.
I'm showing you what's been admitted into evidence as Exhibit 74. You see that?
Yes.
I'm now showing you what's been admitted into evidence, ma'am,
Shoe.
as Exhibit 72. Okay. Particularly, I'd like to draw your attention to the intersection of the east wall with, I guess, the south wall. Is that, you see that right there?
Yes.
Where would the south wall be for the jury?
Right here.
Okay, so where the blinds are, the vertical blinds?
Correct.
Okay, where there's an electrical outlet?
Yes.
Now, when you're conducting your initial walkthrough, did you notice those marks towards the corner?
We did not know.
What marks?
What would those marks be indicative of in your training and experience?
They could be one.
Does call for opinion or speculation. I'm assuming that's the objection.
Yes, sir.
You might think of that.
Yes, Your Honor, it's within the scope of everyday observation and common sense. Someone who leaves a item on carpet or makes that
So it's not about what the stuff's in the carpet, it's just the indentations in the carpet.
Yes, but there's not residual. Here, Mary Brook.
Yes.
Ugh. They're objecting about cause for speculation. Ooh. And yeah, I don't think they were talking about the carpet marks.
Rock burns, isn't that what you call it? If you get them on your knee or your buttocks.
Buttocks. I think it was another spot of the red stuff that comes out of one when they get stabulated. But I don't know.
Well, they're not doing anything. Marissa, I know you are really invested in this case and find it very interesting and absolutely is not about to fall asleep. Another case started today. West Virginia versus Natalie Cochran, a lady who's serving 11 years for a Ponzi scheme, and she's now accused of unaliving her husband. The audio is way better. Do you think chat would hate us if we switch trials? Because this is as boring as listening to Valhalla talk about his favorite cheese.
His favorite cheese?
Yeah. Should we put it to a vote? Stay on this one,
Yeah.
or drop to?
Put a
We are
vote
an
up.
hour and 20 minutes behind, so we can speed up. Should I put up a vote or do you do it? No, you can. Can you? No, you can't.
Lines on Parks and Kate to you?
I cannot do a vote. I think everybody is saying switch, literally in the chat. I mean, and don't pick on Val.
Well, I'll pick
Val
on
is
him.
my therapy at night, and he put my kid to sleep like 2 nights in a row with his goats.
Yeah, I've heard he does that to kids. It's called go to bed slap.
Yeah, well, I put him on mute just in case he gets mad at the roosters. So,
Yeah, he's not a fan of other cocks in the house, I heard.
well, neither are those roosters. Still pick on Val, but also switch trials.
Okay, let's do that, because this is, even though it's a very interesting case on the face of it, it's absolutely effing boring. I just have to update my I'll update the description of the video, because I'll just do recaps of the video instead. Maybe it's fun.
Fortunate that we are using well, 3 so early, but that's why they're there.
Mr. Victor?
I think that bringing the juror in would be what I usually call an exercise in futility.
I will not.
Let's go back. Oh, and they have closed captions on for this one. So
Oh, nice. I'm going to put a notice in Discord in case people left.
I'll just have to make a new thumbnail and stuff like that.
Well, Penguin from Batman. What did I miss?
Did
Oh,
you added your screen back? Or did no? I did.
no,
Sorry.
I didn't add anything.
Okay, let's do it
Mine
again.
out.
For the fact that all parties remain in place, the defendant is present. Let me explain to counsel and the defendant that we already have a juror problem. Ms. Bays in the clerk's office received in her junk mail an email from Ashley Evans. If you remember, she is juror number 3, whom we interrogated lengthily yesterday. I will not read the entirety of this email, but basically she says that she's not coming. She has no reliable transportation. She said that her son has special needs and he is on virtual school and she can find no one to watch him or keep a fire. She has psychological issues and she is going to see Dr. Jaffrey today or tomorrow. And lastly, she talked to someone about the case on her way home against the court's instruction. So obviously, she has done everything she can to remove herself from the jury. Ordinarily, I would consider sending the bailiff out to retrieve her and bring her in. But under the circumstances, I don't think we want to have her as a juror in this case. And it looks like we will have to use alternate number 1 to step up and become one of our regular jurors. Now throw that out.
I already love him
to see if
you
you
all.
have any objections or suggestions. And from the state, Mr. Truman.
Your Honor, it's unfortunate that we're using a 1-3 so early, but that's why they're there.
Mr. Victor?
I think that bringing the juror in would be what I usually call an exercise in futility.
Oh my.
I think we need to use an alternate juror.
All right, and that's the court's view as well. Again, ordinarily, I would at least bring her in, chastise her, and perhaps even find her in contempt. Not because she has these problems, of course, but because she did not tell us about these issues that she had, and she has had a perfect opportunity to explain to us that she had difficulties. We were very cooperative and very considerate yesterday, and when prospective jurors had issues, we accommodated them as best as we could. So I propose to elevate alternate number 1, who is James Casey Bailey, to regular juror status. All right.
We are roughly an hour and 16 minutes behind. We'll catch up.
Are there any further matters that we need to discuss? And I'll turn to you first, Mr. Truman.
Okay, Your Honor, this would be before the first witness, but we have two limiting instructions that the state anticipates referencing in the exhibit. I thought I'd present those to the court.
That's right. Great that you have limiting instructions since I don't have a secretary anymore.
That comment will be better than our copy.
All right.
Also, can we turn this off instead of the jurors staring at the board searching all the time? We can turn it on.
Sure.
When we meet. Thank you.
I don't want you to tip your hand for the court's benefit. Who will be your first witness? And I assume it will be a 404B witness.
Robert Heinzman.
Okay.
No, the defense knows today's lineup, so that's not a problem. We told them who we were calling today.
All right. And Mr. Victor, you've looked over the limiting instruction.
I have, there probably needs to be one little change. There's,
Okay, what is it?
in the 404B, rather than the second line to prove his character would be probably to prove her character.
Okay.
Good eye.
I would spell who's differently in the instruction.
Now, wait a minute.
That's minutia.
Is that the only correction you'd add?
I would ask for that. That's it.
All right, I'll certainly make that. Anything from the defense, Mr. Victor or Mr. Silva?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Bring the jury, please. I'll stand for everyone. I'll explain to the jury why you folks are not standing, and I understand.
This should be interesting. She looks way too happy. I mean, I guess she really wanted her husband unalived.
Well, she's out of prison because she's serving 11 years for a Ponzi scheme.
Oh. $11 for that?
Yeah, millions embezzled.
Oh.
I'll speed it up because it's because I'm working in the background, so I can't be on screen at the same time. I'm trying to update everything. But so nice, you can hear what everyone's saying, and you have CC on, and
There's plenty of room in the jury box. Just find a seat anywhere. You're no longer numbers, your names. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I hope that you slept well and you ate a wonderful breakfast at Bob Evans or someplace, and you're ready to go.
Bob Evans.
Let me explain some things to you. I will always stand
it's an old case. It's an old case. We will hear all of it.
for you in your honor. I have instructed the attorneys and the parties not to stand, not because I particularly don't want them to, but there's no use for them to be popping up and down, and I'll stand for everyone. We have had a difficulty with one of your own. Ms. Ashley Evans has had some problems this morning, and she cannot serve as a juror in this case. She's had some extreme difficulties. This is why we have alternate jurors. Alternate juror number 1 is James Casey Bailey. Where are you, Mr. Bailey? Congratulations, you are elevated at this moment to regular juror status. You are no longer an alternate. You will be a regular juror with the rest of the 11 regular jurors. Now, yesterday we were rushed. We went late, and I know that some of you folks had to get home to family and other obligations. So I did not get to give you my brief spiel. I will do it now. We will try to start promptly at 9 o'clock every day. I would ask you to be in your jury room a little bit before 9 o'clock. I will have donuts for you of the finest caliber. I will have coffee for you as well. We will break for lunch. Lunch break. Sometimes I have to go a little bit after.
What's going on with the sound?
Don't have audio
Today and before to go to any of the local restaurants. If you have ready access to your car, you can drive to one of the fast food restaurants or one of the restaurants here in town. We have Upland Soul that's just right next to the annex and also the Dish. And I can get you some menus, even if you wish to order ahead of time and have your lunch ready. If you want to brown bag it and bring your own lunch, you're welcome to do that. And you can stay in your jury room and enjoy your lunch that you make yourself. If you want to not have lunch at all, which is something I wouldn't advise, you're welcome to do that. You can walk around town as long as it's not 11 degrees out there. Or you can stay in your jury room or whatever you wish, because your lunchtime is your time, and you can relax in any way that you want to. Yesterday was sort of an anomaly. We wanted to get the jury seated, and you folks comprise the jury. And so we wanted to go late rather than to bring everybody back in, because not only did we have you folks, we had 40-some other people in another courtroom waiting. And we wanted to send those folks home that would not be chosen for this trial, and we wanted to get you all situated. So that's why we stayed late yesterday. I don't anticipate that we will be doing that in the future unless I consult with you and everybody's okay with it and we want to get a witness in or get something taken care of. I don't permit note-taking by my jurors, and several have already asked me about that. And that is from experience. I'm an old guy and I've been doing this for a while, and I have observed over time that some folks become distracted when their partner sitting next to them is busily making a transcript and taking down every word that's spoken in the courtroom. So I decided to refrain from allowing my jurors to take notes so that you folks could rely on your memories and just watch and not be a slave to a pen and paper. As I explained to you before.
Well, the new trial info, we really haven't gotten it yet because we're going to get opening statements in a second. So let's wait for new trial info.
You have to be on guard.
Did she Redrum her husband? That's the case.
You are jurors and you are targets. There is much interest in this case, and folks will ask you questions about it. And probably last night your relatives, when you got home, pounced on you and asked you a lot of questions. I instruct you sternly not to speak among yourselves about this case and not to talk to anyone else. If you are wandering about out in the hallway, you are subject to run into someone that you know, somebody that might be here on other business. And they might approach you and they'll say, why are you here? And as soon as you say, well, I'm a juror, then they're going to say, oh, what case is it? Tell me some juicy details. And then you're in trouble. You don't want to even be seen talking to someone else at all. As I explained to you before, the attorneys will be discreetly cordial to you. They might wave or nod to you, but they're not going to be your best friends. They do not want to be seen talking to a juror because it is a hint of impropriety. So the attorneys will kind of run from you if they see you coming. Please do not discuss the case. If someone is persistent and talks to you about it, tell them nothing and report the matter to the bailiff or to me. We may have some smokers on the jury, and if we do, we'll try to accommodate. You can talk to the bailiff in that regard so that you can take
it looks like that woman in
I think that's about it. I don't have very many rules. They're pretty simple. I urge jurors to be friendly with each other, get to know each other. You all are very nice people. You can talk about anything under the sun except for this case. So if you want to talk about sports or politics or the weather or anything else,
let's start a fight.
To do so. You can talk about your families. You can share pictures or whatever you want to do. But just do not talk about this case. And in particular, don't talk about the judge because I'm very sensitive about that. All right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I have a formal instruction that I need to read to you, and it's more or less some of the same, but I need to make a record in this regard. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, a trial must be conducted in accordance with the law of the land. This is what we call a criminal trial because an indictment has been returned against the defendant, charging her with first-degree murder. An indictment, however, is not evidence of anything. It is merely the formal charge which joins the issues between the state and the defendant. You mustn't let the mere fact that an indictment was returned influence your decision in this case in any way.
Oh, we switched trials and now Jamie want to show up. Did the other one bore you, Jamie?
No, I was busy with work.
Well, I have to go get busy with work, so it's perfect timing. We'll just switch in and out. So thank you, everybody. I will see you in chat.
Thank you for helping out. Now I had to do my day job.
All right. Yep. No problem. See ya.
Ciao.
You certainly must consider it to be evidence of guilt. Any defendant in a criminal trial under our system of justice enjoys the presumption of innocence. A defendant is never required to prove his or her innocence. Rather, the burden is entirely on the state to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Do not make your mind up or form an opinion about the defendant's guilt or innocence until you have heard all of the evidence, the instructions of the court, and the arguments of the lawyers, and have retired to your jury room to consider your verdict. Do not make a private investigation of any kind or conduct an experiment in order to gather information about a particular fact or issue. You must not read a newspaper, review an account online, or listen to a radio or television broadcast concerning the trial. You must not discuss this trial with anyone, not even with members of your own family. You cannot even discuss the case with your fellow jurors until the end of the trial when you retire to your jury room to deliberate and render a verdict. Your oath requires that you receive information about the case only while you are assembled in the presence of the court, the parties, and the lawyers. Should someone approach you and try to talk to you about this trial, please do not engage in a conversation and report the matter immediately to me or to the bailiff. Counsel may, from time to time, object to the admission of evidence or ask me to rule in your presence on certain points of trial procedure. Although as judge, it is my obligation to rule on these matters, I must emphasize that my rulings are not to be taken as any indication whatsoever that I favor one side or the other. A judge at all times must remain completely neutral, impartial, and indifferent toward the state and the accused. Counsel will presently make their opening statements in which they will tell us what they believe the evidence will show. The opening statements are neither arguments nor evidence and should not be considered by you as such. You should give the lawyers for each side your undivided
She's in prison now.
attention because what they have to say will simplify your task of relating the testimony of each individual witness to the total of all the evidence offered during the trial. Ladies and gentlemen, we will follow a definite order of presentation in this trial. Because the state has the burden of proof, the prosecutor will go forward first to be followed by defense counsel. All right, the state may present its opening statement. Mr. Truman.
Your Honor, before we begin, on behalf of everyone at the defense table, there is an extremely bright light behind you. I don't know if it's a reflection off of something, but it's very distracting from this point of view, and we're having trouble even concentrating. I believe it's a reflection off of the screen to your right. Yes, yes.
What is it?
It could be totally
Okay. Is there anything we can do about that? Is that going to affect
That's much better.
broadcast media that we have here? I can turn up these lights a little bit.
That was the problem, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. All right, now, Mr. Truman, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning. On February the 5th of 2019, Michael Cochran was a 200-pound, healthy 38-year-old man. By midday of February 6th of 2019, he had lost consciousness and he would never regain consciousness. He died in hospice care 5 days later, February 11th of 2019. How could this happen? Why did it happen? For an answer to that, it's no further than this defendant's conduct. As you were told, the state has no direct evidence, the kind of stuff that makes TV shows exciting, the kind of stuff prosecutors love, jurors love. There is no DNA. There is no evidence of fingerprints. There are no videos of what happened. But as Judge Kirkpatrick will instruct you at the end of this, circumstantial evidence is just as valid as that type of direct and scientific evidence. And there is a ton of evidence of this defendant's guilt. All circumstantial. So how did this happen? How did this healthy 38-year-old man go into a state of unconsciousness and never come back from that? On the morning of February 6th of 2019, this defendant advised her friend and neighbor, Jennifer Davis, that she had been sick all night, 103-degree temperature. And she had previously advised that she had cancer and was under chemo treatment. And that chemo treatment, the effects of which were somewhat negated by insulin. There were no diabetics in the Cochran house. And there's no evidence that this defendant was taking insulin to counteract anything. But Jennifer Davis, being a good friend and the mother of a child who was a severe diabetic, had insulin. The defendant knew that. Jennifer Davis, being a good friend, sends her husband with insulin to the defendant's house that morning. About noonish, one way or the other, Michael Cochran collapses in the Cochran house kitchen. Now, the defendant gives various versions of what she saw, what she heard, and what she did, but there's no question that he was unconscious by about 12:20 or so. How do we know that? She took a picture of him and sent that picture to a number of people, showing him in a collapsed state in their kitchen. Did she call 911? No. Did she load him into a car and take him to the yard? No. What did she do? She called 2 construction guys that worked for her. They took Michael Cochran from the kitchen floor and put him on the couch, where he would remain for the rest of the day, some at least 6 hours or so. That's an unusual reaction for somebody to take with their spouse. She did, in addition to calling the construction workers. You'll hear from him, Jason Bowen, who helped move Mr. Cochran to the couch. She called a trooper friend of theirs, J.D. Hamilton. J.D. Hamilton came to the Cochran residence. He saw Michael on the couch. Michael was not conscious, and he was concerned. J.D. Hamilton is married to Stephanie Hamilton, and she is a physician's assistant. They get the medical attention. Stephanie Hamilton came to the house. She looks at Michael Cochran, and she tells her he needs to be checked. Did the defendant do that? No. Let him lay on the couch. Roughly 3 hours later, things have deteriorated to the point where Michael loses control of his bladder and urinates on himself. Did that event trigger any action by the defendant? Did it seek medical care for her husband, who's on the couch and unconscious now for a number of hours? No. She and her sister changed his clothes and left him on the couch. By 6-ish or so that evening, Michael's best friend, Chris Davis, comes to the house. Chris Davis takes charge. Says, we're going to the hospital. The defense says, oh, he don't want to go. He don't want to go. Of course, nobody could ask him because he was unconscious. Chris Davis says, we're taking him to the hospital. They do. They go to Raleigh General Hospital. But the damage has been done. You'll hear from a couple of doctors to explain the significance, but for now, just keep these numbers in mind. According to the defendant, Michael Cochran's blood glucose level was in the 140s during the day. She reports that to a couple people. He gets to Raleigh General Hospital, and it was 21. 21. That may mean nothing to you right now, but keep that number in mind. Now, Michael Cochran's mom was 10 minutes from his house. She's a retired, registered nurse. Did the defendant contact her? Oh, she did about 10 o'clock that night by text saying, they're going to have to take Michael from Raleigh General to CAMC.
It was so boring that Jamie said she would leave me if we didn't switch, so I had to switch.
All the opportunities to get help to this man, and she took none of them. After being in CAMC for a few days, he's transferred to hospice. He's there roughly 5 hours and dies. His cause of death was damage to his brain caused by insulin. You'll know that because a couple of doctors will testify. A Dr. Uribe and a Dr. Krieger will tell you how the effects of insulin just basically destroyed this man's brain. Glenda Epperly, an experienced RN and a hospice nurse.
The skinny, we are just doing opening statements, so I haven't looked more into it than that. This lady had a husband who was healthy, fine, doing great, and then he passed out one day and died very shortly after in hospice care, 5 days later, I think.
So they say.
So they say, allegedly, in Minecraft. She had been talking to her friend saying that she was getting chemo treatments and insulin could kind of counteract that. So her friend gave her some insulin because her son was diabetic, which is weird because can you just give people insulin? But she does that, and then the man passes out, and she doesn't call the hospital, even though multiple people tells her to. All of this is, of course, opening statements. Nothing has been proven so far. The lady is already spending 11 years at the behest of the taxpayers of West Virginia because she ran a little Ponzi scheme too. So that's why I thought this could be interesting.
Said she had never seen a body come out of hospice that looked so good. This was a healthy man until she did him in. Now that answers the how. Why? Why would this happen? And why would it happen when it happened? Well, as the defense counsel informed you during questioning.
Yeah, it's illegal, but people do it all the time.
A big one, where millions of dollars were taken from friends, relatives, local professionals. As many deceptions and lies as were told to her victims of the Ponzi scheme, Michael Cochran was told just as many. He did not know what was going on. but he was determined to find out because people were saying, hey, we invested in your company in this plan and we're not getting our money back. And he was frustrated. He was very frustrated. But the same excuses provided by the defendant to all of her victims in the Ponzi scheme were being provided to Michael Cochran too. It's everybody's fault under the sun. They've got hundreds of millions of dollars in their money stuck in a bank in Virginia, Bank of America. That's what she told Michael Cochran. That's what he believed. So Michael Cochran is going to straighten this out. They charter a flight from Beckley to the Bank of America branch in Lynchburg, Virginia for the 6th of February, 2019. Mysteriously, the defendant cancels that trip in early morning hours. Why was that trip so important? Because Michael Cochran and everybody else would know at that point. There is no money in the Bank of America in Virginia. There's never been any money in the Bank of America in Virginia. There are no government contracts, which is what she was selling to most of Raleigh County, it seems like. Those were fictitious things that she made up and built millions of dollars out of her victims. Now, we're not going to pretend Michael Cochran didn't get a benefit from this. He did. The defendant and her family lived a very lavish lifestyle with other people's money. And Trooper Heinzman will explain to you in an.
Thank you so much, Holly Mac. No, you don't need to thank me because again, I've been in court all day. I needed something where we didn't have to interpret what people were saying, and a DNA expert that boring should they should get someone better to present it. Yes, the Ponzi scheme kind of seems to be the motive to hide the Ponzi scheme. It's kind of like the Murdoch trial.
But from what I understand, he knew about it. But I guess maybe they're trying to
No. He just said he was asking, why is everyone asking when we're getting the money back? And she said it's in Bank of America, so he didn't know about it.
Oh, well, sorry, I watched ahead, so because like it kind of sounds like, you know, it's he said, she said stuff, so we'll see.
Overview, because this case isn't the Ponzi scheme case. That one's over. This is the verdict case. But he'll explain to you how the defendant did this and how she was able to pull this off for so long and how she got so many people to forfeit their money to her. That was all going to blow up on February 6th. And it would have been over February 6th. But of course, the Cochrans never made it from Beckley to Lynchburg. And Michael Cochran is dead because of this. By the way, in case you've forgotten from some of your questioning, this defendant is a pharmacist. She knows about medications and drugs. Beyond that, she held herself out as a specialist in diabetic counseling. She knew the impact insulin would make. That's our case, all circumstantial. And at the end of it, we'll be asking you to find the right verdict and find this defendant guilty of first-degree murder. Thank you.
Mr. Richter?
May it please the court, counsel for the state. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, by the prosecution's account, and perhaps by some other accounts.
He has an Austrian accent and looks like taller Danny DeVito.
I forgot already. And then you start talking, I'm like, oh yeah, I was going to tell you about this guy, but I didn't want to bug you about trading trials. I was like, you love his accent.
Yeah. I'm already happy that you forced me to change, Jamie.
Natalie Cochran is not a nice person.
I didn't do anything. You did it on your own. It was
She
great.
defrauded
I was like,
friends.
oh, thank God.
Relatives, investors. She was involved in a Ponzi scheme. She cheated, she scammed. And she has paid for it. But ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the fact that she is perhaps a fraud and perhaps a cheat, and that you wouldn't perhaps want to invite her home for Sunday dinner, that you wouldn't like her, does not translate into being a murderer. This trial is not a forum on public acceptance. You don't have to like her. You don't have to say she is a great person. But you have taken the oath.
Oh, you can't do that in Denmark.
Judge her fairly and to give her a fair shake, a fair trial. When you took the oath, it's not just some wave of a hand. It is a solemn oath to search for the truth and to determine what really happened in this case. Now, the prosecutor presented a very nice theory, except that as you, well, people, again, I'm Matthew Victor. I represent Natalie Cochran with my co-counsel, Mr. Stanley Selden. We represent somebody, again, who is perhaps dishonest in her financial dealings, but who didn't kill anybody, let alone her husband, her only man in her life, a man, the father of her 2 children, and a man with whom she was enamored ever since she laid eyes on him in high school. She's not a murderer, as the evidence will show. Now, she is accused here by the state of West Virginia of one of the vilest crimes there is known. And I will submit to you that the state's motive in this case, as they presented it to you, is absolute nonsense. The state of West Virginia is trying to tell you that my client, Natalie Cochran, who has lived with a man who was up to his eyeballs in the Ponzi scheme,
Up to those eyeballs.
somehow detected that he was on her. He was already detecting that she was committing a major fraud, and he was going to run straight to the federal government. Well, think about it, ladies and gentlemen, as you listen to the evidence. The state would want you to believe that he didn't know anything about the Ponzi scheme, didn't know anything about
We don't know anything, Melissa. This is opening statements.
millions of dollars in the lavish lifestyle. He didn't know anything about this, even though the evidence will show that he was signing all these contracts, he was working on the contracts, he was signing checks, and you will see that evidence, you will hear that evidence. And all of a sudden, he found out that Natalie Cochran, his beloved wife, is a fraud and a cheat. And what was he gonna do? No, he was not gonna go and talk to her and try to resolve this case somehow, get a lawyer or no. The evidence will show, well, at least the state's evidence will show, that she's going to run to the federal government and turn her and her in and have the dear wife, the mother of his children, locked up in prison. Well, okay, think about that. As you listen to the evidence, be aware of the fact that she, that is, Ms. Cochran, does not have to prove herself innocent. The state has the burden of proof, beyond a reasonable doubt, to demonstrate that Natalie Cochran killed her husband with premeditation, deliberation, and malice. And that, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the evidence will show the state cannot do. They cannot do it. You will see.
In America, the Chinese built the railroads, which is why they're all bumpy. This man could get any large group to Krakow in under 10 minutes. Oh, maybe he used to be a train conductor. Don't think about it. This will get my channel taken down.
Exhibits, you will see
Thank you, Bob.
documents here, consider it all. But what comes to mind immediately is that bottle of insulin. And I will submit to you that this is a smokescreen that the state is going to present to you. You will hear expert testimony and evidence that this type of insulin could not kill anybody. And for that matter, that the amount of insulin that may have been given to Michael Cochran would not kill him. The state will not tell you exactly what happened that day. Well, they will tell you what they believe happened that day after Mr. Cochran was allegedly shot with this insulin. But what they will not tell you is that if you are shot with a injection of insulin, you're not going to drop unconscious immediately. Think about what would happen if somebody injected you with insulin. Would you react? Would you call 911? Now let's think about it. Let's also think about the fact that the evidence in this case is not exactly what the state believed you to be. Mr. Cochran was a 38-year-old man who died, and the question still remains, what did he die of? You will hear medical evidence that Mr. Cochran was not a healthy 38-year-old man. In fact, to the contrary, between the late 2017 and the time of his death in 2019, he was in the hospital 4 times. For what? For life-threatening conditions. He was a ticking bomb, the evidence will show, health-wise. He suffered from a plethora of medical conditions that could easily end up his life. What's more, you will hear the evidence that Mr. Cochran fancied himself to be a bodybuilder. He wanted to be the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Universe.
Okay.
And what did he do to that in that regard? Mr. Cochran has imported, well, let's call it medication, from Mexico.
I knew Iris would put it. That's why she travels so much.
Online, from sources that were not approved by any FDA or any legitimate American government sources. And he was taking medication, steroids, that were not for human consumption. That there was some animal medication taken only by the animals. So consider that.
I'm pretty sure no animals takes medication. Valhalla, can you confirm that you give animals medication? But actually, insulin is also used a lot by bodybuilders. So it could be himself if he had that. Eastern European. Well, he sounds like doesn't sound German, but he does sound German in some way.
Consider that. He was not a healthy man.
No animals.
He was in the hospital in 2017 for his back problems. That's maybe even disregard that. But he was again in the hospital for mold exposure, with the symptoms similar to what happened to him in February of 2019. He hated the hospitals, the evidence will show. He told everybody that if they ever took him to the hospital, it would be a waste of money, and he would not want to stay in a hospital. But 2 days later, he was again in a hospital with the same conditions, even worse. Somehow he survived. His medical conditions, you will hear, involve the swelling of the brain, convulsions, perhaps epilepsy.
If you take insulin you can force more nutrition into the cells. It's a way to open up the cells. So even though your natural insulin level has said, okay, you had enough sugar, if you then introduce insulin, the cells will think, oh, I need more sugar. So you can put more energy in. That's why bodybuilders use it.
You will hear all that evidence. He was not a healthy man. And he refused to take medications. He was pumping himself with steroids and whatever other medication there was that he could get from less than legitimate sources. And you have to consider that in arriving at your verdict. Secondly, the evidence will show that the state's medical evidence as such is going to be easily discredited by the expert evidence of people who, expert witnesses, who will tell you that this type of medication, what he had, could not have killed this man. And on top of that, the facts of the case are also different from what the prosecution told you. In fact, the insulin, you will hear about all this insulin. This is a smokescreen. The insulin that my client had in her possession was the insulin that Mr. and Mrs. Davis gave her repeatedly. Why? Because they had a diabetic son. And Natalie was an expert in administering that medication because their next door neighbor had a son who had diabetes 1. Sad to hear that, but that's the reality of it. It was not a one-time deal. She was, in fact, entitled to go to the pharmacy and get that medication, pick up the medication for Mr. and Mrs. Davis's son. So the fact that she had any insulin in her home is of no import. Furthermore, the state will present the evidence that they found a bottle of insulin in her home. We will, however, present to you that that bottle of insulin was, first of all, full. So nobody took that insulin. Second of all, that insulin was found in the refrigerator 4 months after Mr. Cochran's death. That insulin is completely irrelevant, as the evidence will show.
See, that's interesting.
The state wants you to believe that Ms. Cochran, as a pharmacist, is knowledgeable of the insulin because she wanted to kill her husband. The evidence, however, will show that Ms. Cochran, as a pharmacist, is also known to have great knowledge of any other substances that could kill. Undetectable, untraceable. And so consider this evidence. Let's assume that the state is right on everything. Consider the fact that this
Cold-blooded killer
borrows a murder weapon from a neighbor to kill her husband with the insulin that involves now a couple of witnesses. Then she places that medicine in her refrigerator, the evidence of the crime, apparently, according to the state, for 4 months. And then she somehow does not use any other substances that she knows of because she is a pharmacist. That theory is absurd, ladies and gentlemen. Truly. And now, the kicker. She has an absolute power to hide the evidence. And the evidence will show that she had never cremated her husband.
Cremated.
So he was exhumed. His body was exhumed. So that the state
Just say that 86% thought that the state opening were good and 13 it was bad. I liked it. It was short and sweet.
could prove something, which the state cannot, but at least they try. And we will submit to you that if she had cremated the late Mr. Cochran's body, there would have been no case. There would have been any case. Now, you will hear the evidence about her chemo treatment. You will hear the evidence about her health. And, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, after all of that, you will come to the realization that the state's case doesn't make any sense. And you will not be able to answer your own question, perhaps. What did this man die of? Certainly not the insulin injection. And the evidence will also show that Mr. Cochran, by the state's own admission, was enjoying the benefits of Ms. Cochran's fraud. Well, that's another red herring. He was involved in the Ponzi scheme. He knew about multi-million-dollar purchases, the toys, the houses, trips to Paris, trips to Hawaii, expensive, lavish lifestyle. And you have to ask yourself at the end of the case, he didn't know about it? Really? He didn't know how this money was generated? He who wrote all the contracts for the government, for the non-existing purchases? If you cannot answer these questions, then you have to acquit the defendant.
Well, Marissa
This
has
is a
to take a
complex
day off,
case,
so I am
ladies and
filling
gentlemen.
in for her.
But it's built by the state of West Virginia on conjectures and innuendo.
Well, because there's only circumstantial evidence, so he will say, wouldn't she have chosen a better way because she knows all the ways to do it? Come on now. Don't sell her that short. She's a
Yeah.
murdering machine, but hasn't done it the right way.
And she left the murdered weapon in the fridge. So
Yeah.
she could
Again,
have disposed of it, you know, all the stuff.
I would, when they talk about the insulin, I'll just bring up, oh, you know, he's a bodybuilder. You know, he took, don't you think it could be because he did it, he used it for glucose overloading of the muscles.
Yeah.
It is rich on spurious conclusions and speculations, but it's still a fact. And glaringly lacking in motive and the evidence necessary to prove that my client killed her husband. At the end of the case, we will ask you to find her not guilty. Thank you.
Members of the jury, the next part or stage of this case is the introduction of the evidence through witnesses and exhibits. This is what lawyers and judges call the heart of any trial. You are to determine the facts of this case solely from the evidence. As jurors, it is your duty to listen carefully to and observe closely all witnesses and evidence to assess the weight of the evidence and the credibility of each witness. As I explained to you, because the state has the burden of proof, the state goes forward first. Mr. Truman, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. State calls Robert Heinzen.
Raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may have a seat right there.
What was her Ponzi scheme though?
If you will give me a prompt that
I know they're not
the,
gonna talk about it.
Yes, sir.
Jamie, don't start a Ponzi scheme.
I'm not smart enough to do all that.
Yeah, that's what everyone doing a Ponzi
proceed
scheme
with
says.
those instructions.
No,
Go right ahead.
Hey, Baker, you want to join my
Well, Robert
company?
Heinzman?
when I'm
Yes,
gonna
Ryan.
start?
Tell us your background in
Just-
education and employment, please.
My name's Robert Heinzman, and it's probably best if I go chronologically from my first professional job to present.
We're going to
to
speed
help
through this
keep
as
things in
well.
order. I joined the United States Marine Corps in 1989 and got discharged in 1993 off of active duty and joined the Beckley Police Department here at Beckley as a law enforcement officer. I worked at the Beckley Police Department 4.5 years and applied for the West Virginia State Police and then was hired by the West Virginia State Police in 1997. I stayed with the state police until the year 2000. I left law enforcement and went into doing private investigation for about a year for a local attorney here in Beckley. In 2001, I went back into law enforcement, worked at the Bluefield Police Department for 2 years. I was doing that while I was finishing an undergraduate degree at Bluefield State College. I finished that in 2003, went back into the private sector. I came back to Beckley, worked for a law firm here doing civil investigation. I did that for about 3 years, and I was then recruited by a former law enforcement officer that I worked with who was now working with the West Virginia State Insurance Commission's fraud unit. It was a new unit that had been created in West Virginia around 2015, 2016. So I joined that unit and did insurance fraud investigation for about 6 years until the state police had called me and then recruited me to come back to the state police because they wanted to stand up a financial crimes unit inside their Bureau of Criminal Investigation. They didn't have anybody doing that. They needed someone with some experience doing fraud investigations. So I went to the state police in 2013 and stayed there until 2019. In 2019, I applied for law school here in West Virginia and went to moved to Morgantown, attended law school starting in 2019. Law school is 3 years long, so I did that for 3 years. And then after law school, I took the bar in 2023. Was accepted to the state bar. I'm now a practicing attorney in Morgantown, West Virginia. I opened an office there, and I'm in my second year in private practice in Morgantown. And that's my storied career, part of it.
Was this case your last case in law enforcement?
This was the last criminal investigative case that I worked before I left the law enforcement community.
You're going to ask if this is marked mistakes 1 for identification.
I like being a little behind so we can speed up through all of this.
All right, members of the jury, normally the court would read to you what's called the jury charge at the end of all the evidence and before the closing arguments. Sometimes during the trial, the court must read to you a limiting or cautionary instruction, and that time has arisen. So I read to you these 2 instructions. The court instructs the jury that evidence of other crimes, wrongs, or acts by the accused is not to be considered to prove her character in order to show that she acted in conformity therewith. However, the jury may consider such evidence for other purposes, such as proof of motive, opportunity, intent, preparation, plan, identity, and absence of mistake or accident as to the crimes charged. The court has or will take judicial notice of court documents generated by the United States District Court, Southern District of West Virginia. That is, the court has or will take as a fact that the litigation in the United States District Court, Southern District of West Virginia, occurred based upon the determination of sources whose accuracy cannot reasonably be questioned. You are instructed, however, that you may or may not accept that fact as conclusive. All right, you may continue now, Mr. Truitt.
Your Honor, before we begin, the defense counsel will be showing the exhibit so we are on the same page.
Sure.
So it's Matthew. We can see both.
Morning, David.
I hand you what's been marked for identification of State's Exhibit 1. Can you review and identify, please?
Yes, sir. These would be the federal documents. The financial crime in this case was charged through the federal government. So these are the federal documents that sort
I don't know. It's hard to tell. I think there were so many mistakes made in that case that that he would probably get convicted anyway. But I think the guy who was allowed to testify just by throwing a phone around in his office in a weekend was a phone expert, was ridiculous and should have been thrown out. So I don't know.
verify that
I agree.
an agreement was made by Ms. Cochran to plead to certain financial crimes, federal financial crimes, to resolve the financial crime that occurred with this investigation.
This was your last criminal investigation, correct?
Yes, sir.
And State's Exhibit 1 reflects the finality of that investigation for that part of the case. Is that a fair assessment?
It does.
Tell us some background as to what that case was about. What's a Ponzi scheme?
A let me start by saying that I just didn't go from law enforcement into doing financial crimes.
I'm sorry, I'm going to object. We don't need all the background. Let's just answer the questions.
All right, I'll give the witness some leeway.
Get him.
You can explain. Go ahead.
Yeah, I
I
like
have training in financial crimes. I'm a certified
Colonel,
fraud
thank
examiner to the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. I have a master's in forensic accounting. During the course of that education and training, couched with the experience of conducting financial crimes over that 13-year period with the state police and with the Insurance Commission's fraud unit, as well as some other financial crimes that I worked during my uniform law enforcement days, I come to learn about the different various types of fraud and financial crimes that occur in society. So when I say fraud or I say financial crime, or I would say maybe a scam, I may use some terminology that's more or less synonymous as I discuss this. So if you hear me say fraud or scheme or scam, I'm generally talking about the same thing. The financial crime aspect of that term would apply to the violation of law or the criminal charge. So when we say a Ponzi scheme, we're talking about a type of fraud. And what a Ponzi scheme is, the term Ponzi is a name coined after a con man in the 1920s. So Ponzi itself means nothing, but the Ponzi scheme is a methodology of fraud. And what that is it's an illegal business practice where someone would induce a person or a victim to invest money into a business, and then they would continue to get investors to invest money in the business, but later investors' money would be paid to earlier investors' money, and then that cycle would just continue over and over. So as new investors would invest in the business, then monies from that investor would be used to pay earlier investors. Now, the investment could be a number of things, but that basically is what a Ponzi scheme is: taking new investor money and paying earlier investors on money that they were supposed to receive from their earlier investment.
What do you look for when you suspect a Ponzi scheme?
Ponzi schemes are generally involving in business. So when you're looking for certain red flags that may, with many scams and schemes and frauds with the Ponzi scheme, if the investment opportunity, the very first indicator is that it sounds too good to be true. When that sounds too good to be true, that's typically the initial indicator or red flag. There may be promises that this investment is very low risk. You know, people who want to take their hard-earned money and invest in something to get money back want to make sure that they're not going to lose money. So there's typically a high reward with a low risk involved with inviting or inducing someone to invest in a company or a business. And then there's opportunities to reinvest that money. You know, if you've earned this money and there's opportunities to reinvest. So there's different red flags, and the indicators aren't always present in all scams or schemes, but those are some of the ones with the Ponzi scheme.
In this particular case, how did you become aware that there was an investigation to be opened?
This investigation opened from a businessman here in Beckley who was part of this overall financial crime scheme.
I'm going to object. Can we approach the bench on this?
Sure.
I don't get why we need to hear how to do a
yeah.
Ponzi scheme. It has nothing to do with a man who's not alive anymore. This is the murder trial all over again. We're talking about
Yeah.
everything that has nothing to do with the trial.
Well, he's getting his rejections, and I like it. Because I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, she's already convicted of this crime. Why are we talking about it? I mean, I get their whole motive is she did it because he was gonna, turn her in. But it sounds like he might have knew what. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how this works. But if, like, all of a sudden your wife comes into a bunch of money, you have to know something's up, right?
Yeah.
A local businessman who was involved with Miss Cochran's business called a state trooper or ran into a state trooper that he knew.
Unless they have evidence he called the cops, I can't see how this is relevant.
And asked, he was having problems with.
I'm going to object. Hearsay now.
This is Dane.
Yep. I like this defense team already.
Back to the judge.
Yeah, we're on it.
83% like this openings as well.
And you determined that the defendant was in fact operating a Ponzi scheme.
Yes, the defendant had a business and was operating a Ponzi scheme.
in summary fashion, what was the overview of the business that she pretended to have?
The business purported to be a supplier of durable goods and other materials to government contracts. So the federal government would need to buy supplies or goods. They would put out an announcement for businesses to bid on these contracts to fulfill their needs. And then federal contractors, businesses would bid on these contracts, get awarded the contract. Then the business should supply the good to the government and get paid for the good they provided. That was the purpose of the business. That's what the business purported to be.
And you did an extensive investigation that culminated in the federal conviction that you have at State Exhibit 1, correct?
Yes.
Now, the defense has floated a theory that Michael Cochran was up to his eyeballs in this Ponzi scheme. From your investigation, do you have any evidence that would support that?
Let me state by saying the business itself, in its appearance and in its existence, was legitimate. The business was legitimately set up. It was registered with the state of West Virginia. It was registered with the federal government. So Michael Cochran was aware of the business, and because he participated with what he believed was a legitimate business.
I'm going to object as to what Mr. Cochran may have believed. That's cause for speculation.
Thank you so much, Krista, for the 5 corner kisses. You are way too kind.
She is.
And I will use them to buy Jamie a hot dog.
One.
So during our
Only
investigation,
one?
we reviewed many financial records, many
I'll buy a big
documents
one.
to determine if any government contracts
Mom of
existed.
10
Any
in a second.
federal government contracts have been awarded to this business, and we could not find any contracts whatsoever where the government had awarded these. Now, there was one state of West Virginia contract that was that Mr. Cochran had, or the business had bid on, but they never fulfilled that contract. So beyond this one contract, there were never any contracts that we could find to support what the business purported to do. Also, in reviewing these documents, there were applications made to financial institutions, and many of those documents only bore the name of Mrs. Cochran in the business, and those documents would purport that she was a 100% owner of the business. So there was a suggestion or indication that Mr. Cochran didn't know about certain documents that because he wasn't listed on certain documents. In addition to that, the victim investors of this financial crime were given reasons. They were given information to induce their investment. They were given information regarding them getting their investment money returned to them, the money they should have earned on their investment. So the information that was false or deceptive that was being given to victim investors of the business was the exact same information that was being given to Mr. Cochran when he would question why the business hadn't received its money from the contracts. He did participate in looking for contracts for the business to bid on, but that was about the extent of his involvement. He would search the internet and the federal websites to identify federal contracts that the business could bid on. But the structure was that Mrs. Cochran would go out and secure those contracts from the government. So as far as Mr. Cochran knew, based on the records that we reviewed, the interviews that we did, he believed that they had obtained contracts and that they would be receiving money for these contracts. So he would ask the same questions that investors would ask: where's the money for this contract? And so that would indicate that he was not involved because he's asking the same questions regarding monies and profits.
In your investigation, what do you base the fact that he was asking the same questions as the investigators? What do you base the conclusion that he was asking the same questions as the investors?
During our investigation, like we reviewed many records, we consulted many agencies, we obtained records through subpoenas or search warrants, and we were able to get text message communication held by investors, and also as a result of some subpoenas and search warrants, we were able.
I'm going to object to any third-party involvement in this and what the other parties have done. He had not been provided with that evidence, and the witness is testifying about something that is absolutely his.
You prosecuted search warrants and subpoenas for cell phone records, correct?
That's correct.
Did that include the defendant and messages back and forth between her and her husband?
That is correct.
Did you use that information to reach any conclusion as to Michael Cochran's knowledge as to what was going on with their reported businesses?
We did.
How did you verify that the conversations by text were actually between the defendant and Michael Cochran. How did you authenticate those documents?
Well, the holder of those records, we would issue a subpoena or to AT&T, for example, may hold business or phone records. We would issue legal subpoenas for those to get those records, and then we review those records.
Well, I mean, how did you know that they were communications between Mr. Cochran and Mr. Cochran?
Well, Mr. Cochran had an established phone number. Mrs. Cochran had an established cell phone number. So the records that we requested and reviewed were those cell phone records. We also received records from investors, victim investors of the business, and would compare those to the same communication. So we had multiple text message communication, some email communication that we reviewed to come to our conclusions.
Leading right up to the 5th of February, 2019, you saw text messages between the defendant and her husband?
Yes.
What was the plan? How did it end up that they were going to fly to Lynchburg, Virginia? From your investigation, how do you know that?
Let me say this scheme began in 2017. So it had gone.
I'm going to object. The witness is not answering the questions.
I think he's trying to explain, and I'll give him leeway in that regard. You may continue, Mr. Johnson.
This Ponzi scheme began in 2017, mid 2017, and as it matured, more investors gave more money. There were other monies that were obtained through some loans that Ms. Cochran would obtain, but there was still this need to return money back to the investors. The investors were still expecting money to be returned. The problem with the Ponzi scheme is it's short-lived.
Now I'm going to object. This question was asked and answered at least once.
Yeah, I think maybe we are getting a little far afield now. Perhaps another question would be in order, Mr. Truman.
Thank you. Let's just explore one other area. From your investigation.
This is what should have happened in Murdoch. Don't go all these side trips. Just answer the question. Stay. If you need to talk about the Ponzi scheme, talk about the Ponzi scheme. Not the. You're litigating a totally different matter.
Is there a single shred of evidence that supports the defendant's theory that Michael Cochran was going to turn his wife into the federal government?
No, sir, there was not.
So it wasn't just state as this time.
Cross-examination, Mr. Bishop.
Mr. Heinzman, I understand that you were involved in every aspect of the federal investigation of Natalie Cochran. Is that right?
I left the state police before the indictment, before she was indicted.
Before the federal indictment?
Before the actual indictment occurred. But the information that was obtained to bring that about, yes.
Prior to that, you were involved in every aspect of that investigation?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you wouldn't know what the federal government alleged in the indictment?
No, I do know what they alleged in the indictment.
Well, is it true that the federal government alleged that both Mr. Cochran and Ms. Cochran got involved in a scheme, but Mr. Cochran died, what the federal government called unexpectedly in 2019? So she was the only one who got indicted. Is that true?
I would not characterize it as such.
Did you see the forfeiture documents that the federal government filed against the Cochrans?
Yes, some of those.
Some of those. And in those documents, federal government alleges that they were both involved in the scheme, right?
Without reviewing the documents, I don't know.
All right, we'll come back to this.
This is a really good point. I hope that's real, because that'll kind of show this guy's a little shift.
Yeah, exactly.
Who is Colonel Jan Cahill?
Colonel Cahill would be the superintendent of the state police during my last employment with the state police.
I'd like to mark this.
All right, if you'll present it to the clerk, please.
As the defendant's exhibit number 1.
Nej, stop dig selv.
I provided a copy to the
Yes, ma'am.
Well, he knew that they both were under investigation, but he didn't know that charges were dropped against Mr. Cochran because he was not there anymore, is what he kind of alluded to.
Yeah.
But I do like Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
I
he's
like
a
a good
feisty little
feisty defense attorney.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, technically they are always allowed, but normally they will sit with their headphones on because they're shackled, but she's not shackled.
Okay, approach. Here's your record. Mr. Heinzman, I'll hand you what's been marked as defendant's exhibit number 1. Would you tell the jury what that document is?
No, but it's a choice. She is allowed to go up there.
This is a communication,
she
a
had
letter that
done.
I prepared and sent to a federal investigator.
That was done in April of 2019, right?
Yes, it's dated April 2019.
And the subject of your correspondence was the Tactical Solution Group and the Technology Management Solutions. Would you tell us what those two organizations were?
Technology Management Solutions, or also known as TMS, was a West Virginia company formed in 2013 by Michael Cochran and Natalie Cochran.
How about the other one?
Tactical Solutions Group, also referred to as TSG, doing business as TSG, is the company that was formed in 2017 by Natalie Cochran and Michael Cochran, which the Ponzi scheme ran through.
All right. Now, looking at this document, is it true that you allege as the mode of operation that the Cochrans, plural, Cochrans, have been soliciting contract investors to invest funds into their company to be applied to government contracts? Plural. Cochrans.
Which paragraph, Mr. Victor?
Mode of operation, first page.
Yes, I see that.
So they were both involved in the soliciting government contracts, right? According to you.
Well, when this correspondence was written, we began the investigation 1 month prior to this correspondence, so we were still fact finding. We didn't conclude that Mr. Cochran was or wasn't involved that early. We went into it as if both were involved. We didn't know. We hadn't collected all the evidence, reviewed all the documents and things of that nature. So
Mr. Heinzman,
at that time, it still does list them as Cochrans.
Mr. Heinzman, this investigation has been going on since 2017. Is that right?
No, sir.
When did you start this investigation, sir?
In 2019.
2019. So 2 months before the, well, months or so before the federal indictment?
The indictment wasn't in April.
Okay. So in 2019, you're still speculating whether they're both involved in this or whether just one of them is involved?
By the time the federal indictment occurred, we had concluded that Mr. Cochran did not know. We had spoken with witnesses, we reviewed documents, we had all of our records, we had subpoenaed in from third-party record holders.
Yes.
So it would be, no, we were open-minded. We didn't know to what extent either, or if they were, we were still collecting records.
Where is in this document that you are telling Colonel Cahill that this investigation is still in its infancy?
This letter is not addressed to Colonel Cahill, first of all. And I don't understand that really what your question is.
Well, tell us where in this document, written to Jeff, whoever Jeff is, does it say that this investigation has just started and we're collecting more data and we're going to talk to more witnesses?
The document says, Jeff, pleasure speaking with you this morning. This is a document that I prepared following a phone call with a special agent of the federal government who I had reached out to assist with getting records from federal government databases. And I was providing him the information he had requested so that he could do his search.
But I didn't ask you that, Mr. Heinzman. I asked you to show me in this document where it says that we have just started the investigation of the Cochrans, plural. Where is it?
The document would not state that because it's not relevant to this document.
It wasn't relevant.
To this document, to the special agent.
But you described in detail in this letter the mode of the operation of those two organizations. And you used the word Cochrans, plural. And now you also described how this alleged fraud is being perpetrated. Is that right?
This working document does describe some of the information we had learned at that point. Yes.
Then you also wanted to see the list of any contracts or any other documents that deal with the Cochrans. Page 2, what we need. Cochrans, not just Natalie Cochran. Is that right?
Is that a question?
Yeah.
I was trying to explain all this earlier, but you objected.
I'm 3 years old. Do you have in the what we need section of this document the statement that we need all the documents, date, numbers, dates, details, payments to TSG and or the Cochrans, again plural. Does it say that in your letter or not?
It does.
It does. How about in the mode of operation of this alleged fraud. When, and I'm reading from the top paragraph, 5th line. When maturity date occurs, TSG Cochrans notify investors of funds being in, but then offer them a partial payment. Fair to say that you use the word Cochrans again?
I think this is good questioning, Melissa. I say you don't. We can see you say it doesn't work. It's really important to get in there that he knew she was doing the Ponzi scheme, because then the motive goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you don't have to prove motive, but the jury would sit there and think, then why should she kill him?
Yeah. I mean, that's what goes through my mind.
Yes, I use the word Cochran's again, referring to the Cochran's business, TSG and or TMS, Technology Solutions Group, Technology Management Solutions.
You testified that it is your, I guess, conclusion that Mr. Cochran didn't know anything about what Ms. Cochran was doing in terms of the fraud and the Ponzi scheme, right?
That's not accurate, no.
Okay. What did Mr. Cochran, well, illegitimate part of the business. Legitimate part of the business, you testified that Mr. Cochran was involved in, right?
Mr. Cochran was involved to the extent that he did certain things.
Like what?
He would help locate contracts. He would do.
And again, I feel like this makes the witness look weak. So even if it's important or not, it makes him stumble a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is always good, because the jury they are not taking notes. Remember that? There's no notes in this case. They will just remember he stumbled a lot over his words. He seemed weak.
Online internet searching of federal databases for government contracts that were available for bid from contractors. He would identify those contracts and provide them to Mrs. Cochran, who then would order those contracts or bid on those contracts so they could be awarded those contracts.
And he distanced himself from that point on, from anything to do with the contracts, right?
That is exactly what it appears. That's not all inclusive though. So,
all right. Now, have you, in your thorough investigation of this case, talked to the children of Mr. and Mrs. Cochran?
No.
Well, why not? They were adult by now.
Well, at the time they were children. They had nothing to do with the business, so we weren't.
Would it surprise you if I told you that they observed their parents work on the federal contracts? That is, the father worked on the federal contracts while the mother was reading a newspaper or a book?
No, we know that. We know that exactly.
Well, wait a minute. So Mr. Cochran is working on those contracts. My client is sitting peacefully reading a book, and you're telling this jury that he had no knowledge of these contracts?
I'm not telling the jury that. I said that he knew about the contracts that he was led to believe were bid on by their business.
Okay.
We spoke with many witnesses who would see both the Cochrans on the internet looking.
Mr. Heisman, I'm sorry, but I'm not interested in any other witnesses. I'm interested in this particular witness as a son or a daughter of the Cochrans. You don't know anything about what happened in the household of the Cochrans when Mr. Cochran was working on those contracts, do you?
We never interviewed the children. We never were in the house while they were working on contracts to observe what he did. So the answer would be no.
Now, this fraud resulted in what the prosecution described here as a lavish lifestyle for the Cochrans. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, let's start with the property that the Cochrans all of a sudden acquired. They had 3 homes, right?
Yes.
So were those homes acquired simultaneously, or were they purchased during, one after another?
Based on my best memory, because I did not bring any asset schedules up with me, they were purchased at different times.
Okay. And they were not the cheapest of properties, were they?
No, they were not.
What did Mr. Cochran do for a living, sir?
Mr. Cochran's profession or occupation was he was an IT or internet technology specialist. He dealt with networking, setting up IT and networking. That's what his training and certification was. And that's what the business technology management solution would have also done. Install wiring, phone lines, computer lines, network things.
What was his job? Where did he derive his income from?
Doing that from 2013 to 2017. He also worked for Workforce West Virginia, either as a salaried employee or a subcontractor, doing just that networking and internet support for them.
Well, how much money was he making a year? Do you know?
Which year?
Well, let's say 2013.
I don't think we pulled his wages back to 2013.
All right, 2017.
That I can give you. His last reported wages, his last reported wages were in 2013, the second quarter of 2013.
So you really don't know how much money this man was making from any source to give us an estimate as to how much money the family made.
We looked at the Cochran's personal bank accounts,
Yeah.
for their business bank accounts,
Well,
and we found sources of income. The focus of our investigation was sources of income from these federal contracts and
Right.
federal government.
and I'm trying to ask, well, Natalie Cochran was a pharmacist.
Yes,
Her income was about 120 grand a year. Wasn't it?
I'm not sure.
All right.
It was,
But his income, as we sit here today before the jury, we still cannot identify. Can we? His individual income.
to a certain point, we can.
Well-
Yes, we can. Can't provide you numbers, but we see what was legitimate income. We see what was not legitimate income.
Was his income, even combined with Natalie Cochran, such that allowed the purchase of 3 real estate properties that would go into thousands of dollars?
Can you,
And more specifically,
can you clarify the 3 properties you're referring to?
property on 219 North Eisenhower Drive, property at 210 Parkwood Drive, property at 433 4H Lake Drive, all subject to subsequent forfeiture.
Yes, the last one, the home on 4H Lake Road, that home was held by them before the Ponzi scheme began. The other 2 properties were purchased with proceeds from the Ponzi schemes during the period of the Ponzi scheme.
And one day, Ms. Cochran sits at home and her husband walks in and says, honey, we just got the property with thousands of dollars. Or she walks in and says, honey, we just got the property worth thousands of dollars. And he says what to it? Wouldn't it be surprising to you, Mr. Heinzman, that all that lavish lifestyle was sudden and enormous, and any reasonable person such as Mr. Cochran would ask where the money came from? Wouldn't that be the case?
That's a mischaracterization of our investigation.
Okay.
And I don't know what your question.
Then the answer is no.
Would I be surprised?
Yeah.
Was that the question?
Well, no. Well, would you be surprised? Your wife walked in with a new real estate that she just purchased for X thousands of dollars. Wouldn't you want to question where she got that property? Unless you knew what the source of that income was. Would that be right?
I don't know.
I don't know. Well, all of a sudden, Mr. Cochran can afford a listen to this, 1965 Shelby Cobra replica, an antique car, thousands of dollars. He drives in front of the house and says, honey, I just got me a nice little car. Wouldn't that be a question mark for anybody in the family where that money came from?
I don't know. I know where it came from.
Well,
I don't know what people in the family believe.
okay. Well, then we have a Yamaha motorcycle, 2017. 2014 B-Tex dump trailer. Another Yamaha motorcycle. Polaris model. I take it as another motorcycle. Another big trailer. A Yamaha Timberwolf.
I think it was 10 o'clock, but it's not televised.
Honda Rubicon. 2 diamond earrings. One of those earrings was like $14,000, wasn't it? His gift to Natalie.
What was the purchase date of it?
It's like $14,000.
The purchase date?
The earrings, the jewelry.
What date?
Purchase date. What year?
I think it was 2018.
19?
2018.
18. And yes, that would be derived from proceeds from the Ponzi scheme as well.
That's right. So he has all that money at his disposal, and he doesn't know where that money comes from, having no identifiable job.
Especially when the raise and the bonus comes from your co-owned company, where you don't know anything about how she got all this money. Just say, you're not doing anything wrong, honey. No, okay.
He believed it came from a business called TSG that they ran together.
Yes, he got what we fondly on this channel calls defense dementia. Doesn't remember anything or can answer any question when the defense is asking.
Federal contracts.
And you believe that? That's your opinion.
The evidence points in that
The evidence?
direction.
All right.
Let's stop at this juncture. I hate to interrupt cross-examination, but we do need a comfort break. We've gone on a little too far. I want to take a brief recess at this time. We'll break.
12 million, thoroughly.
Now we're only half an hour behind.
All right, we continue with cross-examination of the witness, please, Mr. Victor.
Mr. Heinzman, did you know that Mr. and Mrs. Cochran did not have any, or did not list any, source of income past 2017? Did you know that or not?
They didn't list it where?
In their tax returns.
No,
You didn't know that, okay?
I don't know if that's true, but I did not know.
I didn't ask you whether you knew it was true. I just asked you whether you knew that they did that. And the answer is no. Now, did you know? Did you look at the, well, I mean, you investigated this case thoroughly. Did you ever consider looking at the forfeiture clause or forfeiture document filed by the federal government? Did you?
Again, this came after I had already left, so
Okay,
I didn't see this at that time,
okay.
though.
So if I told you that in the year of 2018, under Schedule C for tactical solutions, Mr. and Mrs. Cochran listed the gross sales and gross profits for the tactical solution group, the gross profit of $12,406,564. Would that surprise you?
No, I did see those documents, yes.
Mr. Heinzman, the wife comes home and the husband comes home and says, honey, we just filed the taxes. Our income is $12 million. And then what?
That's not how the documents ran with this business or with the Cochrans, so that would not be the case.
For the profit of the TSM, 12 million bucks. Where did that come from, sir? And even better, the wife says to, the husband says to the wife, honey, where did that 12 mil come from? And you still testify here today under oath that he didn't know anything about the illicit Ponzi scheme? Is that your testimony here today?
Yes, he did not know anything about the Ponzi scheme.
Okay. Well, he obviously listed
Exactly.
as the place for the mail for the Tactical Solution Group, P.O. Box 667, as a general customer, is Michael Cochran, didn't he?
I don't know what you're looking at, Mr. Victor.
Okay. May I have this mark?
Certainly.
As I'm going to hand the prosecution copy of this. And may I have this marked? Yes, sir. Mr. Hammond, I'm going to hand you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 2 and tell us whether you know what this is.
No, Mr. Victor, I can't say I know what this is.
You don't know? Does it say P.O. Box 667 for Tactical Solution and gives the address of 4334 H Lake Road, Daniels, West Virginia? Would that be the address of Mr. and Mrs. Cochran's house?
That is the address of their house.
Right? And now they've been assigned a P.O. Box number 667 for that address. True?
Yeah, something happens.
Just see P.O. Box 667. Don't you? Yes or no?
This document does say box number 667.
All right.
However, it doesn't have any dates on it.
No, Mr.
Okay.
Hammond.
Okay,
Does it say P.O. Box 667 for that particular address?
I want to answer the questions intelligently, but I need to
Well, you
know.
can answer that on redirect.
Okay.
Does it list P.O. Box 667 for that home address of Mr. and Mrs. Cochran?
It lists 2 PO boxes here,
All
sir.
right. Well, then
So
let's start
yes,
with
667 is one of those.
All right. And who is the customer on the front page?
Tactical Solutions Group LLC.
All right. And then there is P.O. Box 782, also listed on that front page, right?
Yes.
And who is the customer for that?
That says Michael Cochran.
All right. And on page 2, P.O. Box 667 is assigned to Tactical Solution Group, right?
Yes.
And then it says individual right after that in like little brackets, and it says Michael Cochran, right?
Did you say blue brackets?
No, it's a little bracket, man.
Oh. Yes, that says Michael Cochran there.
And PO Box 782 is, again, Michael Cochran as a customer.
Yes.
Now, may I retrieve the exhibits? Oh, by the way, I move for the admission of defendant exhibit number 1, if I forgot, and also number 2.
The objection, Mr. Truman. Okay, no objection needed. All right, defendant's exhibits numbers 1 and 2 will be admitted into evidence.
May I retrieve the exhibits, please? So would you agree with me, sir, that all the mail that comes to the tactical solution, the tactical solution group comes to the PO box owned by Michael Cochran?
Well, he left before they really looked at any of it, all of this. He didn't know anything about all of this. So come on now.
And he has access to it, obviously. True?
No.
No? Okay. One of these companies dealt with firearms. True?
Yes, sir.
Military equipment. True?
Purportedly, yes, sir.
What my clients, do you know from your thorough investigation of this case, what is my client's experience with firearms and military gear?
I don't believe your client has any experience with firearms or military gear that I'm aware of.
However, Mr. Cochran seems to have plenty of experience with that, right?
I think he was a fan of those things. I don't think he ever served in the military.
No, he was a fan of the military equipment.
The persona. Yes.
Now, he is actually listed as the partner in both of these firms, right?
Yes and no.
Yes and no?
Yes and no.
Okay. Well, let's see. Well, let's start with something different. Registration status that is registered is, I believe, the Secretary of State. May I have this marked as defendant's sequential exhibit? May I approach? I'll show you what's been marked as defendant's exhibit number 3 and ask you to turn to page 2 and tell the jury what the document says.
I didn't catch that. Did anyone catch his name? Something with an F, I think.
The documents, page 2 of 5, is a printout. What all do you want me to read?
Well, let me ask you this. Isn't it the registration of the business called Tactical Solution Group, LLC? At least that's what it says, right?
On this document, yes, it does say that.
And to renew the registration, it shows all kinds of computer possibilities, HTTPS, whatnot. But then it has a name of somebody who is related to Tactical Solution Group and who is apparently registering this business. Who would that be? On page 2.
Michael Cochran.
Do you see anywhere there in this document?
Not on this document, no, sir.
The name of Natalie Cochran.
No, sir, not that document.
All right. Move for admission into the evidence of defendant's exhibit number 3.
All right.
I move for the admission.
Any objection, Mr. Truman?
No objection.
Defendant's exhibit number 3 will be admitted into evidence.
I'd like to have this marked as the defendant's exhibit number 4. May I approach the witness?
Systematic.
Going to show you what's been marked as defendant's exhibit number 4.
Would you tell us what that is?
It appears to be a photograph without a date of a business card that says Technology Management Solutions LLC.
Okay. Who is the owner and the operator?
The owner and operator on this card is Michael B. Cochran.
Okay. He's licensed and insured, correct?
Yes,
And
according to this card.
Of course, according to this card. We're looking at exhibit number 5, Mr. Hangeman.
This says exhibit number 4.
4. He gives a direct phone number for those who wish to contact him.
This is like AH's forensic expert who just, yeah, I made up some numbers and then I just multiplied them by a lot. She probably would have made $1 bazillion if she went into Aquaman 2. How can you prove it? I just feel like it.
Doesn't he?
There is a phone number on the card, yes.
Mm-hmm. And he also gives his email address, right?
There's an email on here, yes.
And that's M. Cochran, not N. Cochran. True?
That is correct.
All right. If I may retrieve this. And I'd like to move it into the evidence.
Any objection, Mr. Truman?
No objection.
It is admitted.
Your Honor, I may retrieve another.
Is her defense team Bert and Ernie gone old?
Document. All right. Which? No, that's exhibit. No, that's exhibit.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking she.
Is it true that Mr. Cochran signed all kinds of checks on behalf of his business,
There were checks signed by Mr. Cochran, yes.
dealing with the operation of the of the business?
Can we clarify which business or both businesses?
Well, Technical Solution Group. I'm going to show you a couple of exhibits. And I have provided copies to the state. I'm going to ask that these exhibits be perhaps marked collectively in a sequential number.
All right. You got copies of these, Mr. Truman?
I do, yes.
No, just call it. May I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
I'm going to show you what the mark is. The defendant's exhibit number 5. Would you take a look at these pages and tell us what you see?
You mean describe everything.
Well, no, just tell us what these pages represent.
Page one of the one that has a stapled page is a photocopy of a check, a Tactical Solutions Group check number 1095, City National Bank. It's attached to a printout of what appears to be a partial screenshot of a web page pertaining to the ATF.
Who is this check for? Who is it payable to?
I believe it says Morpho Trust on it.
Okay. Who signed this check?
This particular check number 1095, is signed by Michael Cochran.
Okay. Next check. Who is it for?
The next three documents are single pages. They all are photocopies of checks written on City National Bank in the name of Tactical Solutions Group.
Signed by whom?
Check 1216, first document signed by what appears to be Michael Cochran.
Who is it
Even though
payable-
it's,
who is it payable to?
I'm not sure. This one was made payable to Jason Bowen.
For what? Can you tell?
What amount?
What amount?
Oh, May 18th, 2018, check to Jason Bowen, $1,000. And that is for labor remodeling of 219 North Eisenhower Drive, which is
I didn't ask you what it is. I asked you what it says.
the second one, check 1268, dated 6/21/2018. That is written, same account number, same bank, to Jason Bowen for $1,000 for labor for remodeling work, TSG.
That would be Tactical Solution Group, right? Right?
Yes. August 31st, 2018, check 1405, same bank, check written to Jonathan Miller for $1,200. And in the memo line, it says labor for TSG.
If I may retrieve the exhibit and move for the admission of the defendant's exhibit number 5.
Any objection, Mr. Truman?
No objection, no.
Defendant's number 5 is admitted in doubt.
Would you agree with me, Mr. Hyman, that Mr. Cochran is intimately involved in the running of the operation of TSG?
No, sir, I would not agree with that.
Now he signs checks for the workers who perform improvements on his place of business. He gets involved in the running the operation daily, and you would not agree that he is actually a member of, well, actually runs the daily affairs in this company.
No.
Okay. How many checks can you tell me Natalie Cochran signed for any operation of the business?
The majority of the checks that we reviewed were signed by Natalie Cochran.
Well, can you show me any that deal with the business, day-to-day business operations of the TSG?
Yes.
Well, as you sit here today, you have any of them? Any copies?
Not with me, sir, no.
Okay. Let's assume that she signed it. We have already acknowledged, did we not, that she was part and parcel of this business, right?
Yes, she was.
However, you're claiming that Mr. Cochran didn't seem to know anything about it.
That was not my testimony, no.
Okay. He only knew the legitimate parts of it, right?
No, sir, that's not what I said.
All right. Now, when the Cochrans asked for a loan, who asked for a loan?
Which loan are we talking about?
Tactical Solutions Group. When they asked for a loan to run their business, who asked for that loan?
There were several loans, so which loan?
Let's
Can we
stop this.
be more specific?
It was marked as defendant sequential, is it? Is this number 6 now?
All right, thank you.
She wasn't working as a pharmacist. They had businesses together.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked as defendant's exhibit number 6. Would you tell us whether this is what it is?
This is a poor photocopy of some type of perhaps loan document from a bank. Maybe City National Bank.
Poor copy it is. So let's see who signed this poor copy for a loan.
Natalie Cochran and Michael Cochran.
Right. May I retrieve the exhibit and move for the permission of the evidence?
Dated 9/20.
I don't think so. I would say, if anything, he had an accident while dosing for. he was 36 years old. That's a pretty good age for a lot of people on anabolics to start and go off if he's a heavy user. The witness doesn't like the attorney. No, he has a defense dementia. He will fight him for every question.
Mm-hmm.
No, she's a trained pharmacist. That's why he says there's drugs she could have used us better. 38. Yeah. And exactly if he's using under-the-counter Mexican street roids, you never know what's in those. It could be...
No, you don't. You don't know what's in anything you're injecting into your body, especially if you're getting it under the counter.
Well, you can always buy from Iris. She has the good stuff.
Oh, yeah. She'd love to hear that.
Actually, there was one guy testifying in court today. The business was in his wife's name. It's normal when you have a few bankruptcies behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe she could sign in his name. Exactly. We'll have to see all of that. But allegedly, he didn't like to go to the hospital. Again, this is... we're just getting started. We'll see where the evidence takes us.
27,
Yeah.
2017.
Any objection, Mr. Truman?
No objection.
Thank you. And when you apply for a loan, you have to disclose your financial status. Is that true?
Generally, yes.
Well, you're a fraud expert here. You touted your credentials here in the financial world. So I ask you a simple question. If you apply for a loan for a banking institution, do you have to disclose your financial status?
Generally, yes.
Right. Now, do you know what type of information was disclosed to the bank in asking for the loan?
Again, which loan are we referring to?
The one that I showed you right now in exhibit number 5.
That is 2 documents out of many documents of a bank loan.
Then
So
that's
I do not know without having adequate documents to review. So I don't know what was given.
So you don't remember whether they disclosed any financial information to any bank in asking for a loan?
I can answer that generally, or I can answer that
Well,
specifically.
then let me ask you whether you, in your thorough investigation of the case, concluded that they were both or individually filing for a loan, first of all. You have the evidence that they have so far, right?
That they have filed for loans.
For loans. And in your thorough investigation of the case, did you conclude or did you learn that Mr. Cochran was actually disclosing his income or the TSG's income in the application for the loan? Do you know or do you not? When you prepare for this trial, Mr. Heinzman,
Mhm.
you have had at the disposal of the financial documents.
2 years worth of financial documents. We need to be specific about which document, which loan we're
Well, I
talking
ask you
about.
about this one.
It's an inadequate copy. I don't know. I can't even verify which bank it was. There were many financial institutions involved in these businesses and with the scheme. So
All right. Have you ever talked to Michael Cochran?
I met, well, yes, I met Michael Cochran, the deceased Michael Cochran,
Yes,
at least 2 times. His father's name, Michael.
But you don't have.
The deceased Michael Cochran.
I think 2 times.
I don't know why.
And you
had to
discussed his
say
business
that. It
with
sounds weird.
him?
Neither time.
Well, when did you talk to him?
I
year?
think I attended a board meeting for Shady Spring Football Board and parents that was the subject of a complaint of a embezzlement that Trooper Alan Marsh of the West Virginia State Police was investigating. He consulted with me and asked me to come to this meeting and help me with this investigation. And I think I met Michael Cochran. He was at the meeting, may have been introduced, may not have.
But on neither occasion did you talk to him about Natalie Cochran's business, correct?
Those were not the nature of the contact.
Well, yes or no? Come on.
No, that's
Right.
a
Now-
negative.
Now, so would it be fair to say that at no point did Mr. Cochran come to you and said, officer, detective, whatever your status was at that time, I think my wife is doing something really shady. I need to really talk to some police officers, or I need to really report my wife, maybe to the feds. Nothing like that ever happened, right?
No, sir.
Okay. And you've concluded from all of this, all of your investigation, that Ms. Cochran was running into a financial scheme that was, of course, illegal, right? True?
Yes.
And that Mr. Cochran didn't know anything about it, okay, right?
He was He was unaware of the illegality portion of the business,
He was
yes.
blissfully unaware of any illegality of it. Now, isn't it true that he actually received almost $44,000 from his parents for the investment of this business?
Yes. Yes, they did.
Well, what other money from the investors were directed to Mr. Michael Cochran just directly? Do you know?
Is this are you springing off the first question?
Well, let me just do this. If I may have this marked. That's the defendant's exhibit number. That will be 7. Number 7. Number 7.
Ja. Alina.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked as defendant's exhibit number 7. And this is a document in this shape that I received. Would you kindly look at this document and tell the jury what this document is?
I'm not going to hire him as my forensic expert. Du smelter fed, mand. Det er ikke fed. Bare lidt kraftig.
Some sort of financial document.
Let me maybe let's read together.
Let's read.
This has been provided to us by the prosecution, so I'm reading. Bank of America Visa, Donna K. Bolt and Edward Wayne Bolt, victims of fraud, who are...
Because he's not there to testify as a financial expert, I think. I think he's there to testify on the job he did when he was a state trooper or whatever his job was at the state.
The Bolts, sir.
Edward Wayne Bolt and Donna K. Bolt, husband and wife. Donna is the biological mother of the decedent Michael Cochran, and Edward is her husband.
So
Stepfather of Michael Cochran.
All right, so the mother and the stepfather of Michael Cochran. They seem to be providing Mr. Michael Cochran on page 1, page 2, page 3, and page 4 directly with substantial amounts of money, right? Amounting to about $44,000.
Boom, 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 boom. He's a slow reader.
What's your answer?
Can you repeat the question?
This document shows in different locations the payments made by Mr. and Mrs. Bolt, in this case, victims of fraud, as it says, substantial direct payments to Michael Cochran in the amount of some total of about $44,000. Would that be a fair assessment?
I don't know.
You don't know? Well, then let's go line by line. On the front page, on December the 8th, and posting date December 9th, it says SQ Michael Cochran Daniels, reference number 8086, account number 6008, $11,821. Do you see that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I believe so.
How about 12/4, posted 12/15, SQ Michael Cochran, reference number 2358, same account number, $1,648.79. Do you see it?
Yes.
On 2/4 and 2/5, I'm sorry, on the second page, on February 4th, posted February 5th, SQ Michael Cochran Daniels, reference number 4817, $1,448. Do you see it?
No, he is now he is a forensic accountant, but he used to be a law enforcement officer, and then he used to be a Marine, then he was a law enforcement officer, then he went to school, then he went back to law enforcement, and now he's out. This is the last case he partially worked on as a law enforcement officer. It's easy if you don't think about it.
Yes.
Then on page 3, on February 15th, well, February 14th, and February 15th, on Valentine's Day, they must have been very generous because they posted $2,431, and the same day, $6,302, and the next day, they sent to Mr. Cochran $7,000. Do you see it?
I do see that.
Well, is there any doubt in your mind that this was sent to Mr. Cochran as part of his investment? Or their investment in his company?
They appear to be investments into the company.
And so they sent that money directly to Michael Cochran?
That would be incorrect.
No?
No, sir.
No? Who did they send it to, sir?
They sent it to
Thank you, Virginia.
what appears to be a Square app. It's a
Okay.
financial app that was under the control of Natalie Cochran and Michael Cochran.
Right. Well, we've already established that Natalie Cochran is a
and
bad girl,
Michael.
but we were trying to establish whether Mr. Cochran had any of that knowledge that the money that was being invested, he had the knowledge of. That was invested
He
as
wasn't-
part of his scheme.
He was aware that his mom and his stepdad were investing money into the business.
Okay. Who else invested in his business that you know he was aware of?
Natalie Cochran's parents, the Jessups, Daphne Jessup and Larry Jessup.
So, well, how much did they invest? Do you remember?
Initially, roughly $76,000 from May 30th, 2017 to March 21st, 2019.
And Mr. Cochran was aware of that, right?
I don't know about theirs. I think he was, yes.
All right. Who else invested in that company that you are aware of?
Did you want me to go down the entire list?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So there was, appears to be Natalie Cochran's parents, Larry and Daphne Jessup, and Michael Cochran's parents, or his mom, Donna Bolton, and stepdad, Eddie Bolt. Then Natalie Cochran's sister, Penny Carrico, was an investor into the business. Penny Carrico is now Penny Lowry. She had a boyfriend named Mario Lowry at the time. He was an investor into the business.
Alma was
Natalie Cochran has a sister named Wendy, and her husband, John Poteet. They own a business here in Raleigh County.
How much did they invest in?
Over $490,000.
And Michael Cochran was aware of that, wasn't he?
You may continue with the list.
No, I just asked you a question, whether Michael Cochran was aware of that investment of almost $500,000.
Yes and no.
Yes and no? Well, which is it? Did
Well,
he know?
he was aware of some. He was not aware of others. And then he was not aware of the extent of some of the investments or the repeat
Well,
investments.
how
of
would you know
investors.
that? This is the money sent to his account, isn't it?
Well,
Isn't
I
it?
know that from my investigation, from reviewing financial documents, text messages,
What
interviewing witnesses.
investigation? Tell us specifically what you investigated.
It was the investigation that I was previously trying to explain that you objected to and we never got to. And now
Your
we're talking
invest-
about fragments of that investigation.
As you sit here, Mr. Heinzman, you have to admit that Mr. Cochran was fully aware of large chunks of money that was being shipped to his company that he was a partner in, wasn't he?
Mr. Cochran was aware of large sums of money coming into his business.
How much money was there total that was invested in TSG?
The victim,
Not the victim. How much money was
the
invested?
total victim amount that was addressed in the federal charges was over $2 million.
Over $2 million.
Mhm.
And you're telling this court, and what happened with that money, by the way, once it was invested? They lived high on the hog, didn't they?
Yeah, that was part of it, yes.
Right. And so Mr. Cochran gets a nice shot of over $2 million, and all of a sudden he takes everybody to France. He goes on a trip to Hawaii.
That's where
Takes
you
the
go
family,
wrong.
Buys himself a nice vehicle. Oh, for that matter, he even wants to buy a hangar for his helicopter, right?
That's correct.
A
And he knows
helicopter?
nothing about the. Oh, by the way, how
Hey,
much did
Jamie, you can't start to, because I know how JNN works, because I've seen the receipts that
God.
every time I say, hey, Jamie, could it be possible that you might chip in a little bit to some of the equipment? Now I pay you 105% of all proceeds. And you say, nope, sorry, I don't have any money. And I say, but you just bought a new yacht. Yeah, I needed it. You never
Yeah.
leave your house. No, but it's a thing. You need a yacht in Monaco. And I say, oh, sorry, Jamie. That's, of course, my fault. And then you
I
say,
needed
well,
a
it's
yard
110.
decoration. A yard decoration.
Thank you, Maris, for being a member for 13 months. Just rub it in.
I needed
face.
I needed gas for my helicopter, so
Yeah.
sorry, I don't have any money this month.
Yeah, I'm grifting the wrong people. I need better people to grift.
Well, this is like, I don't know, people that just like do these schemes. I know it's illegal, but it's like they get all this money and then they just start blowing it over the craziness. It's like, be sneakier.
Yeah,
There's no like, why do you? I don't know.
that's why Iris always
frugal.
travels with the cash strapped to her body instead of buying crazy stuff, just to hide it.
He
Yeah.
paid the investors so far. Out of the money, well, I mean, they invested in something. Now they're expecting a return, right?
Well, the motive should be that he was trying to get her arrested because he found out she was cheating. But now it seems like he knew she was cheating.
Would you agree with me that any reasonable investor would expect a return?
Because they claim that the motive for the unaliving is he found out she was running a Ponzi scheme and he wanted to turn her in, and that's why she unalived him.
Yeah.
And the defense is claiming he knew all along, so there's no motive that you claim.
Return on especially $494,000.
Yeah, they would, but they were expecting more than that.
Well, they were expecting maybe more than that, but they were really expecting cash income from this, right?
That's what all the investors expected. Yes.
Right. So they were expecting that. Well, how much out of this over $2 million that Mr. Cochran knew about and that was invested in TSG, how much of that money did he return to the investors as their profit?
It's good advice. Be sneakier, guys.
That question cannot be answered.
Cannot be answered.
No, it cannot be answered because that's not how these the Ponzi scheme and investments, everything.
All right.
works.
So this is the Ponzi scheme. Would you agree with me? Is to rob Peter to pay Paul, right?
Yes.
So we robbed somebody of $464,000. We robbed Peter of $246,000 or something like that. How much did Paul get? That can be answered easily.
I know that the average investment return rate was around 30% on most of the investors. So
On paper, wasn't it?
Mhm.
On paper, in Mr. Cochran's head, their investment return was negative because Mr. Cochran, as part of the this conspiracy, appropriated the money of the investors, didn't he? And lived high on the hog, traveling to Europe, Hawaii, and buying houses, real estate, cars, and everything else. Isn't that a fact?
no,
Mr.
sir.
Heisman? No.
No, it cannot be characterized like that. That's not a
Okay,
proper
well, then
characterization of.
Okay, I'll rephrase it. He lived not high on the hog. He lived in a luxury, right?
High on a
He
hog.
offered scholarships to people out of the money
High on
that
the
the
hog.
investor sent him, didn't he?
I'm not aware of him offering scholarships
Well,
to anyone. I know that Natalie Cochran offered scholarships out of the illicit proceeds.
well,
From the Ponzi
we
scheme.
know that Natalie is
No, but no, Mr. Cochran did not. Again, there are blended facts of veracity, truth in what you're saying.
blended.
Yes, your statements have part truth and part fact that can be supported by the investigation, and some of it is mischaracterization. It's not supported by facts. So
Well,
some of these answers I can't.
Oh, there was high
Then
as a
tell us,
hog.
what happened to
No,
the money.
high on the
For
hog.
example, that the Bolts, Mr. and
Well,
Mrs.
Hala,
Bolt, invested
you
with
ride
their
your
beloved
hogs?
son.
The bolts.
$44,000.
How much?
44 grand. You saw it in the exhibit.
Well, that's a portion of their investment.
All right. That's
So-
even better. So they invested more. What happened?
Some
what
of
happened to all the-
their invested money, and I don't know if they ever got anything back, but their money was used to pay other investors.
Right. So
Part
their
of the
beloved
policy.
son did not even pay his own mother on her investment?
Michael Cochran was not aware that his mom was not getting paid. He was not aware of the other investors. He discovered in August of 2018.
You're speculating. You're making this stuff up as you go along.
What I'm saying can be supported by third-party records, which I cannot manipulate, witness statements that we collected during our investigation, review of documents. No, I can support what I'm saying.
Were there any exchanges between Natalie and Mr. Cochran that you were aware of concerning their business?
Yes, there were lots of communication between Natalie Cochran and Michael Cochran pertaining to the business.
Isn't it true that actually Mr. Cochran was telling Natalie, will you wait for me? I'll make the decisions. In so many words during the exchanges. Are you aware of that or not?
I need more information, Mr. Victor, too.
Ms. Cochran could not make her own decisions in this business, could she? Without Michael's approval.
That's not correct. No, sir.
You don't know the inner workings of the relationship, do you?
Not accurately. No, I was not part of the relationship.
You don't know who was the dominant individual in the marriage and in the business. right?
I have a pretty good idea based on witness statements and reviewing text messages and things of that nature. Yes.
Okay. Well, let's do it this way. You know about Mr. Michael Cochran's fascination with bodybuilding and being really a macho guy.
Yes.
And you have the same evidence of Natalie Cochran being fascinated with, bodybuilding, being, aggressive and all that.
Not bodybuilding. No.
Bodybuilding. If you heard the testimony that Mr. Cochran was the dominant character in their marriage, would that surprise you?
No, I would expect to hear that, and I would also expect to hear the same about her in testimony. So I would hear both of that. I would hear that. Yes.
Well, of course, you didn't talk to the children, right?
No.
So you don't know what was happening in their marriage and in their relationship. And you talked to I would imagine her parents, right?
Her parents, Natalie's parents, right? They would not cooperate and talk with law enforcement.
No, they wouldn't cooperate with you. Okay. Well, how about the cousins?
Well, that's telling.
Did you interview them? No.
Who are the cousins?
Well, anybody who claimed to be the Cochrans, Natalie Cochran's relatives.
We interviewed her sisters, Penny Carrico.
Okay.
We interviewed her sister and her husband, Don Poteet and Wendy Poteet.
And they were the investors, right?
Yes, every name I just mentioned were investors. We interviewed close friends.
The Poteets lost a lot of money, didn't they?
They did.
All right.
Take pause at this time. We passed the lunch hour, and I think
I'm sorry,
now would be a good time to take our lunch. And I again apologize for interrupting cross-examination, but we simply need to observe a lunch break at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break till 1:15, and I apologize to you folks. We're a little bit late, but we sometimes have to go with the flow of the evidence. Please do not discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else. Enjoy your lunch and try to be back in your jury room a little bit before 1:15. You may go with the bailiff now to your jury room.
So, we'll be back at 1:10 roughly, because Daddy needs some food that he hasn't. I always get to eat on stream.
Daddy needs some food. Oh, God.
Daddy need a new pair of galoshes. And I'm going to redirect over to the afternoon stream. But this case is way more interesting than the other one.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, these are the ones I like, where it's like,
They're fighting.
well, they're feisty, and it's kind of like did this really happen? Is this really, I don't know. Because like in the other cases, when they're like, yeah, they did it, and then they're just trying to like put the evidence out there that they did it. It's like, no, sometimes it's no fun.
Yeah, and everyone presenting evidence were
So boring.
more boring than Zach. So no, it was a good thing that you forced me to switch trial. And yeah, why the hell can't I do that? I just sent you the link for the afternoon. I'm not completely sure this one will be a guilty verdict. I am not completely sure anyway, at least not with this guy, because he seems very, very shifty. Are we back in an hour? No, we'll be back in roughly 40 minutes. I just need to get some food into me because, again, I've been at work since 3 a.m. your time today, so I need some hot food in me. I need food in my belly. The rest of you need to say, I don't know what you have to say. Say, I don't know, 100?
What exhibit are you referring to?
I'm going to make this 100, Your Honor.
All right.
100.
100.
Because it is 100% correct.
Checking your honor.
So you literally built a cannon?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
All
right, I'm in love.
Go back. Please do that again. Oh, that was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
While I'm waiting for this, did you, whether it's true or not, believe that Mr. Randolph had slept with your wife?
I wouldn't care.
You wouldn't have cared?
No,
Did you believe he had slept with your wife?
no,
Did you believe he slept with your mother-in-law?
probably did. Everybody has.